It's that time of year. We've collected, or at least I've collected, some recent new releases that all share that same phrase that is in lists we seem to quite enjoy reading a bottle of malt whiskey. And that phrase is cask strength. Got quite a few to share with you tonight. I've been saving them up, quite a few uncorkings to be done, but I've got extra water on hand for hydration. I've got the water jug charged and ready to go. And should we need just a few wee drops of water added, of course, I've got the wee water dropper ready as well. Looking forward to all these whiskies tonight, but more than anything, I'm looking forward to hanging out with all of you. I'll see you in a second. Hello, whiskey folk. Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? Welcome to the vPub. Welcome to your Thursday night. Just noticing I'm having some issues here with the software. As soon as I take anything apart and try and rebuild it again to replicate the vPub scenario and set up from week to week, I always break or destroy something. It's looking a wee bit weird to me. It looks a bit misty and things, doesn't it? And I'm not exactly sure why that is. I'm going to try one thing quickly. How can I do this? How can I do this in a kind of remotely professional way? Let me try this. I don't think that's any better at all. So we've got a bit of a glare down here. I tell you what I'll do. I'll just cover that up a wee bit. Should have done all this before we went live, but I didn't actually notice any of it. It is what it is. Yeah, tear things apart and then can't put them back together in the right order. Anyway, back to tonight. As long as you can see me okay, and hopefully you can hear me too, if I grab the chat and that's all right. Video was a bit soft, Mike. I know I'm spotting that as well. I don't know why that is. I really don't know why. It's quite a bit frustrating, isn't it? I mean, I could play with it live and try and fix it a wee bit, but it is what it is. Listen, as long as we can hear each other, rather, you don't need to see me particularly clearly, do we? It was a wee bit out of focus as well. Regardless, we're in good shape. We got on with it. I've got 7 cask strength whiskies that I've been saving up over recent weeks in order to share with you. Normally, we do the cask strength vPub. It's become a bit of a tradition that we do it every year, around about October, November time. But it's a wee bit later. We're into December this year, and that's because there were 1 or 2 that I was waiting to be released and for me to get my hands on it in order to share them with you. One of them is one that I was anticipating the release of, and I've got it now. And the other one just came along as a bit of a bargain, and I thought, well, if I can actually get that, if this isn't a scam, I'm going to use that for the Cask Strength vPub. So what I'll probably do with you tonight is I'll take you through all of the whiskies I'm going to share with you right at the get-go before anything starts. And if you're interested, you can stay and enjoy them. If you're picking it up on the replay, you can skip ahead to the point in the video that I speak about that specific whiskey. It can help you with some express viewing. It's an uncorking session, so I will be giving my first impression. I'll be giving my thoughts on it and things. And it's going to be quite nice to kind of sip these all in contrast with each other because I noticed how kind of quite tight they are together when it comes to pricing. I mean, the most expensive one There is an anomaly here, but the most expensive one is the 70s, 70, early £70, and the cheapest one is, uh, in the 60s. Yeah. So we range from £66 to £72, so there's really nothing in it. A spread of over of 6 of the bottles, £6 covers it. So they're all really quite close together when it comes to price. So that means there's quite a good value comparison here. I don't expect any 2 of these whiskies to taste similar in any way. We're covering the whole spectrum, the whole flavour bandwidth here, more or less has been covered in a contemporary sense at least. And there is, like I say, one anomaly in there, one that you wouldn't expect me to normally speak about, but it was at such a cheap price, I had to give it a go, and wouldn't you know, it actually arrived. So we'll talk about that a wee bit later. So I'll tell you what the whiskies are in a moment. Before we get into it all, I'll do what I always do, and I'll jump into the lounge to welcome some of you beautiful whiskey folk and dedicated barfly. Fallouts in the voice. Sounds like a bottle. Your sound is a bit choppy. We can hear and understand you, but it's jumpy. Well, that is frustrating. That's super frustrating. Switch away and switch back. Normally we but after the first few seconds, it tends to fix itself. You guys let me know. Million Topper Stewart is saying it's a bit choppy as well. Fallouts in the voice. This is frustrating. I don't want to have to restart the stream again. We can do that if it's really bad. You guide me if you would like me to restart things. It's a possibility. Your audio sounds a bit warbly. I'm really not sure what that is. Even jumpier now. Even half sentences. Okay. Okay. Bear with me, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay. Apologies to everyone for these potential issues. Uh, I've checked all the settings now. Um, Tell me if it's fixing itself. Roddy in the middle. We should have upright one of the old desk cards. Time for lip reading practice. Is it that bad, Bruce? That would be very, very frustrating. Falsgraph is saying, "Wait a moment, it's getting better." Okay, maybe better now. Actually, it's improved. Okay, I need worse now. No better yet. Falsgraph is saying, "Give it time, it will get better over time." Remember to stay hydrated. Aquavite, hardcore topic, says David in Portugal. Still breaking up, unfortunately. It's working itself out, says Jean Kelly. Seems to be getting better. Really, really frustrating, right? Really frustrating. So I tell you what I'll do. I will do my best to jump into the lounge and welcome you and see through me welcoming you, and as Eduarte is saying, um, Auderty, he's suggesting that we plough on. Sounds a bit better, better, better now. Getting better. Looks like it's getting better now. Okay, let's try it. Let's welcome all of you guys in the chat. Obviously, all the orange is going to be talking about. talking about audio and technical issues. The odd second behind, but very clear for me, Julian. Okay, fantastic. We're getting there. Good stuff. All the chat tonight that's lit up orange is gonna be, potentially people pointing out the technical issues that I'm having. It's really disappointing. Sugar Kitty's here saying, "Aquavita Elijah Craig private barrel for me, surprisingly low, 57% ABV." Wow, that is low for Cask barrel. Eh, Elijah Craig at 57%. But he's saying it's still tasty. Justin Wanna saying, "Good evening, Roy and everyone. Finally able to tune in live. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys. Looking forward to hanging out with you too." Anna's saying, "Hi, Roy and Butterflies. Good to catch up live. Loved last week's show and also the 7-year anniversary. Today's Morag's 13-year anniversary of her first heart attack." Oh my goodness, Morag. I hope that that's quite an anniversary. I hope she's in good health. Well, clearly she's doing okay. The times have bumped into her recently, but that's a wee bit sad that she's got that in the background. Anyway, nice to have you in, Willie, and hopefully Colin and Morag are joining us too. Henrik Schmidt is saying fallouts in the voice. Okay, that's me going back a wee bit. Hopefully it's better now. Henrik, nice to welcome you in. Where's Roy is saying my fourth vPub of the day, had the day off, watching 3 on replay. There will never be enough, Roy, even when there's 2 of us in. Good to see you, Roy. I hope you're doing well, buddy. I can't believe you've been benching Aquaviti content today, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. People talking about the audio, the audio, the audio. Let's see how we're doing now. Let me know what you've got in the glasses. That's what we wanna know. Are you on theme tonight? Might be normal now, says Mikey Hay. Excellent. Oscar is saying, "A very good evening, Roy. Got an Aaron the Bothy and as we get to Highland to keep up with the theme. Not new, but past strength and good. It does not need to be new. The stuff I'm sharing with you tonight, for the most part, is pretty new. But anything that you've got in the glass is welcome. If it's on theme, so much the better." Road to Drama saying, "Good evening, Aquaviti. Sounding better for me. Looking forward to the Cask Strength selection and enjoying some Ardnamurchan Cask Strength to start. Thank you, Alberto. Nice to welcome you in as always, buddies, and it's good to see you here." And Andrew is saying, "Sounds all right to me now. Fantastic, Andy. Good to see you in, my friend." Ralph Metier is here saying, "Good evening from Switzerland." Ralph, I'd like to also welcome you to Aquaviti Barflies. Thanks to you and Sugar Kitty that's also joined tonight, and so many others that keep topping up the memberships for the Aquaviti Barflies and joining as new members. You're keeping this all ad-free. You'll never have to sit through an ad at the beginning, the end, or anywhere in between the vPub Aquaviti content. Dave the Brave is here. Good evening, Roy. After an SMWS bottling of a Thrusk, pure class, like a Klein Leash on steroids. See if you can get that one. It is nice and clean. I suspect that we've probably got there in that particular SMWS bottling is something that's from a first fill, perhaps, but more likely a nice, clean refill bourbon barrel. I can't imagine how good it is. Herben is saying, "Nice to see you again. Good to see you, buddy. Good. I hope you're doing well over in the Netherlands." And Graham Young in Canada is saying, "Cheers, Aquaviti. Good to see you in the top. So great." Jerry Miller is saying, "Hello, Roy." And Darth Dermot is here. Good to see you, Robin. And George in Portugal is saying, "Looking forward to a good definition of Cask Strength." Maybe on the YouTube server or whatever technology, right? Says David. I'm sure it's YouTube. I think it's more likely to be my software that I use, StreamYard. It's usually pretty good, but it does have quirks that I've had to work around. Maybe need to get in touch with them and see if there's anything that can be done. Like Wood is saying, "I like the goldfish bowl effect. It's like stuttering Moog synthesizer." Don't tell me that that's still happening, buddy. Good evening, Roy, and wonderful barflies. How is everyone? And Justin Wan is saying, "Sorry to report that you're still cracking up when you speak a bit fast." And Inverurie Whiskey Shop is saying, "Evening on the Little Brown Dog Glasgow Distillery release after a few beautiful Bifrost releases on the Blether." Fantastic. I hope you're enjoying that wee Glasgow release. I managed to get a go on that and thought it was fantastic. Port Askig, 8-year-old Cask Strength in the glass, says Henrik Schmidt in Switzerland. Lovely stuff. Perfectly on theme as well. Something that's spot on when we tie together Cask Strength, when we tie together a Little Brown Dog, and we tie together a definition of Cask Strength is what I've got in my glass tonight. Welcome, everyone. Cheers. I do worry about the technical issues because It damages the replayability, I think. It puts people off. Can't easily watch and listen. But we do what we can. I have no idea why this is happening tonight. I'll try and keep my eye on the chat to make sure that I'm going okay, try and get my attention, if you need anything repeated. David is saying 3 Ardnas, 1 Buna, a Fettercairn 16 in my insides as I finish my dinner after a Lisbon malts make session. That sounds perfect. Who else was there? I bet it was. I wonder if it was our pals, David. Nice to have you in after enjoying a wee session. So I've got little brown dog in the glass here, and you may have seen me mention this before, I'm pretty sure. This is a 45.3% ABV blended Scotch whisky. It's a wee bit dark here. Hopefully you can see that, and hopefully it focuses. This was not a cheap blend. This was about, it's not an expensive blend either. It's about £50. Um, it's got an age statement on there of aged 8 years, but it's got an interesting description. It's Cask Strength Session Dram. Interesting choice of words to declare it a session dram. Probably I've mentioned this before, but that's a direct reference, I think, to the lower ABV, lower for an enthusiast, 45.3%. But they've still got that definition, that descriptor on there, cask strength. Now, cask strength is in the Scotch whisky realm, at least, and other whisky or Scotch-alike whisky type definitions, cask strength means it should mean it's batch two. It's batch two, Mike. I've got Doug batch two. It should mean that that is the strength that it came out of the casks. So whether it's a single cask or whether it's a small batch of casks that's been vatted together, there's no reduction water added. There's nothing to reduce the natural strength that it has reached or settled at in the barrel. So whatever the whiskey has matured at, whatever final ABV that it's arrived at the end, that's near as damn it the ABV that ends up in the bottle. There's a slight tolerance there. This being 45.3%, it suggests that in this blend, there's a lot of cask strength stuff that went in here that is potentially lower ABV. In Scotland, in the climate, we tend not to lose the water, we tend to lose the alcohol. It's different in the States, for example, where they would call it barrel strength. In hotter climates, they will lose water. So the adverse effect happens there. The strength, the barrel strength, or as we would say, the cask strength, increases and it goes up, which is why we can see Elijah Craig barrel proof releases, even with a decent age on them, 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever. It used to be 12 years old. We can see them up in order of high 60s, and once or twice over the years they've been released at 70% ABV, maybe even a wee nudge higher. Quite incredible. It's different here in Scotland. You see the ABV drop in our maturation climate. But because in the cask, after initial filling, there's no further dilution added, there's no further water added. So it arrives at that strength naturally. And what's good about that, you're not adding water to bring that ABV down, it's arrived at that ABV naturally. So, there's this, it sounds a wee bit romantic, but it makes sense to me. My experience tells me there's a lot of truth in it. It arrives at a nice natural state of really quite interesting, integrated, concentrated flavour and aroma. And that, I suspect, is what's happened here with this wee Drukit Dug. I know that there's a lot of aged, very, very mature, very old grain whisky went into making this blend. That would have helped bring the ABV down quite a bit. But the net product, the end result, is a blend that's come out at 45.3%, which means it is utterly delicious and sippable. This was the second favourite, I believe, of the blind tasting that I hosted in Glasgow. I put a couple of bottles of this into the mix, and mixed it up with the other 4 drams we were sipping it alongside, and I think that this one was selected as the second favourite of the night, which always makes me happy because it's fairly inexpensive compared to some of the other bottles that we were sharing. times a bottle. So when people set this blind and put it up to the favourite end of their spectrum of the selection, and then we take the kind of the consensus from the room, and it does very, very well. It's nice to see something that's fairly available and fairly inexpensive doing quite well. So it's a nice wee dram to welcome you all with. Cheers. So as we go through each of the bottles I'm going to share with you tonight, we can consider, is this genuine cask strength? Does it say cask strength on the label? If it does say cask strength on the label, we would assume that that's the case. But it's a little bit like the term single cask. It's not particularly well policed, so it sometimes sees a wee bit of, I want to say abuse, but abuse with a very small a. It's not a real big deal. Here's a perfect question just dropped in from David. He's saying, "Is cask strength a policed SWA definition? Is there any water added can no longer call it as such, or is marketing free definition for higher ABV?" Well, somewhere in between. So there is guidance there, but it's technical guidance from. I couldn't find anything. I looked at SWA regulations, and I couldn't find a mention of this specifically, but I believe it is in the guidance and definitions for the trade for the SWA members. But what it is, from what I can gather, is exactly as you suggest, David. It is no at point of bottling, when from the cask being disgorged to arriving into the bottle or casks, no further dilution has happened. It's natural cask strength with no water added. That way, cask strength on the label. If you do add water to just bring the ABV down to a desired ABV, to a consistent batch to batch ABV, to 57.1 to make it nice, a 100 proof number or whatever it may be, you can't call it cask strength anymore. You should be changing it to small batch strength or batch strength, or you could, interestingly, Daft Mill famously uh, five strength on some of their releases as well. So the suggestion there would be, instead of putting cask strength on there, they're designing the ABV and they're putting it, because it's higher ABV from regular releases, and they're calling it five strength. To me, it's pretty clear. If you put cask strength on a label, it should be exactly the strength that came out of the cask. Much like the definition of single cask, as I say, some people just, it's a cask of whiskey, they've bottled it, they call it single cask, but the history of that cask is that it's been recast from something else. It's been bottled from a finishing cask, or it's been bottled from some marriage stock or something like that. Single cask should only have single cask on the label if it's spent its entire life in that cask, and there's been no re-racking, finishing, marrying, or fooling around whatsoever. So we have to kind of bear that in mind as I go through these bottles tonight. These are known as cask strength whiskies. They're certainly paraded. The ABV stacks up with that, but it may be that some of them are not legitimately cask strength. Hopefully, I'll go through each one at a time. I have got the brand new Distillery edition Loch Lomond, edition 7. I'm going to start with that tonight. I'll follow that up with the oldest release that's come from Kingsbarns to date. They're calling this one their 2024 release of their Distillery Reserve. Now, there's a couple of notes that I want to make on this that we'll talk about it when I get to it. Yeah, there's some information missing here, which I think is quite interesting. But nevertheless, I'm looking forward to getting that open and trying it. I picked up the very latest of the Ardnamurchan. This has appeared on previous cask strength vPubs in the past. I managed to somehow be at the right place at the right time and pick up one of these unicorns. This is the latest, brand new, just out in the last week or two. So I'm kind of glad that this wasn't the bottle that I held off for. It was actually the Loch Lomond that I held off for. But holding off has meant that it's been a long, long time since I've spoken about Springbank 12 on the vPub. So it's going to be nice to be able to uncork a wee unicorn with you tonight. Then we're going to, if I was to ask you one bottle that you have on your shelf that's cask strength, there's a very good chance that a lot of you are going to be talking about this guy. This is Glen Scotia's Victoriana. This is all for me. You've got the old much left of it. There's only a wee drop left in the bottle here, so I knew that I had to pick up another Victoriana. Then we've got this one. I hinted about getting a hold of a bargain recently. If we talk about reductions, discounts, and sales, I don't think only the people that know what's happened with this one would know how much I paid for this. But this is it's not a bottle I would normally go out and buy these days because of the price, because of the recommended retail price for it. But at the price it's for right now, couldn't say no. You will understand when I get to it a bit later. And I'm going to finish off with the cult flavour bomb. That is a very, very unique product. Fantastic price as well. I've got last year's. I think it's last year's. I think this is only batch two, so it must be last year. Yes, it does say batch two on there. So I was very impressed with the first one, and it's the feedback I'm getting is this one is every bit as good and perhaps even a wee bit better. So I've categorized these 7 bottles, and I'll bring up banners and kind of title them in a way so that you can see how I'm viewing these, how I'm looking at them as we go through and we talk about them. Somebody cut the cable. Oh dear. Good evening, buddy. A bit late, but just in from 9 grams tasting. 5 of those are Cask Strength. I saw some pictures, Marcus, that you were enjoying rooms tonight. You're doing well, buddy. You have some lovely looking things. Springbank 12 says Whiskey Weekend Dram. Good to see you in Harrow. And Peter is saying if Cask Strength is the strength as it comes out of the cask, then someone would think of putting extra water in the cask before filling the bottle. Well, that happens because it doesn't often get filled at still strength. It gets filled at filling strength. So there's water added to the new spirit before it goes into cask. I hear what you're saying, that somebody could maybe be reducing the cask as time goes along. Well, I would suggest that it's a dangerous thing to do. You have to be very careful when you're adding water to especially mature whiskey. It can cause problems. Um, Bruno Martins is saying, still salivating with those Ardnamurchans we have tasted tonight. So Bruno was together fantastic. So I'll keep the theme with the Aquavita Ardnamurchan Cask Strength. Good for you guys. We're enjoying some Ardnamurchan together out there in Lisbon. That's great to read. And Road to Drama is saying that 1770 peated Cask Strength is delicious. And Ralph in Switzerland is saying, no Sanic Cask Strength. No, I did notice this. Listen, as Ralph points out, we're close to or over 30 of the distilleries that have core range releases. Let's say about 30 of them have Cask Strength versions available for us. And I've listed them here. And I've also listed the ones that I've gone through already in the 2021, 2022, and last year, 2023. I've already covered quite a bit. But I was surprised to see, Ralph, as you point out, that I haven't yet touched on Kilcolman. And I did notice that they've been releasing, I mean, Akir Base of the Cask Strength were out for quite a wee while. We noticed that recently Sanic has come out in a Cask Strength edition. And it was in the offing, but I didn't pick it up, Ralph. So maybe that'll come some point now next year. If it doesn't, feature in the next Cask Strength vPub that we do, hopefully. But in 2021, I covered quite a lot. I covered Glenfarclas, the 105, the original. Bunnahabhain's 12 Cask Strength, what inspired this series, actually, that came out in 2021. Highland Park Batch 2 Cask Strength, Arran, Spey, the Trutina, Glenlivet Nadura, Glenallachie 10, Springbank 12, Kilkerran 8, and Lafroig 10, Tomatin Cask Strength, Lagavulin 12, and Redbreast 12. That was all in one. You have to think that I wasn't sipping all of those back then in 2021. And then in 2022, we looked at Wolfburn Cask Strength, we looked at Beanston Virgin Oak Cask Strength, Ardnamurchan's Cask Strength, Lafroig Batch 50, this time of their Cask Strength, and the new Bunnahabhain 2022 release, which was a big jump in flavour and quality for me. 2023, we compared the 2022 to the 2023 Bunnahabhain 12 Cask Strength, Romic Cask Strength, Kilkerran Bourbon Cask 2023 8-year-old, the Indre Drew, we went to India for one, and the brand new 2023 Ardnamurchan Cask Strength, along with Torrevix Cask Strength and Arran Quarter Cask. Covered quite a lot in the 3 episodes that we've done up to now, and you see what we're going to cover tonight. So there is a wee bit of overlap there. We're going to go back to Ardnamurchan again, but that's because Bunnahabhain's 12-year-old didn't appear this year. How's the sound doing? Are you still hearing me, or is it okay? Start clicking the wee hearts in the live lounge if it's coming across well, or click the wee embarrassed faces if it's not going so well. That's a good way to just for me to visually see it. If you've got your keyboard going, you'll be able to see. So I'm getting a lot of hearts coming in right now, which is perfect. That's exactly what I need. Um, there's one or two wee embarrassed faces, so we're still seeing some problems coming in. Yeah. Still minor issues, but it's fine, says Ben, and Donna is saying still a bit wonky, but okay. Hell's saying peppermint tea in my cup is fighting off the lurgy. Brought back from Edinburgh. Andy's poured 9-year-old SMWS Glenburgie. It's striking 62.4%. I hope you get well soon, and I hope that Andy's able to avoid it, Helen. That's a wee shame. No, it's not going too well, says Falsgraf. This is a shame. I believe the Cask Strength releases tend to be the one blenders VAT for the whiskey botherers. I would say that that is true, Arnie. I'm going to talk about that. Black Venice saying intelligible but sounds underwater. The only thing I can think of, usually that suggests that there's 2 mics you're picking up, when you get that, but there's only 1 mic connected. There's only 1 mic selected in the settings. If I remove echo cancellation, I don't think that helps. No idea. No idea. The only alternative I have is to restart this stream, and I'm reluctant to do that because, everybody will disappear. We just need to muddle through, and I apologise to everyone that the issues are. I suspect it's software, and there's not much I can do about it. Roy Audio is in and out, but better than earlier, Stephen Wilson is saying. And Bud Jenkins is saying that just got worse. Yeah, that's much better, way better, but softer. It's better now. That's better. Okay, I think what's going to happen is just going to come in and out. We're just going to need to deal with it. Let's move into the first of our bottles tonight, and we're going to call this one the Under the Radar Cask Strength to kick things off. I know that this is not going to be, like some of the other ones I might mention to you tonight, it's not going to be available to everyone all the time. Depending on where you are, you might not be able to get your hands on this. But we are now 7 editions into this now, and I suspect that still a lot of people don't know how amazing these products are. This is an official release, but it's almost like a distillery exclusive bottling that, since you can't visit Loch Lomond, they don't have a visitor centre, they sell it through their website direct to consumer. They don't do that for all of their products, but they do it for these distillery exclusive bottles. What we've got here in number 7 is going to excite quite a few of you that enjoyed the Aqua Vitae bottlings. There's a lot of similarity here. First up, we've got 2012 vintage and a 12-year age statement. This is 55.7% ABV, and this is unpeated Loch Lomond malt using Chardonnay yeast and the straight neck pot still and at the low collection strength. So this is going to be very, very similar to the Aqua Vitae releases. Too Slow Rob is saying it's fantastic. Roy Audio is good now, but a little too low volume. Well, we can maybe fix the volume issue. How's that? How's that, Berkey? Is that helping any? And just let me know if that's any better. Every Whiskey Shop is saying perfect, quality good, but a bit low. Henry's saying better, much improved, much better, thanks. No sound now. Oh my goodness, I'm just going to drink this stuff. I don't think there's much I can do to fix all of these issues. It's a nightmare. Sound is great now, says Blackfen. Listen more of that. Much better, Aquavite. Steve Wilson saying, not Roy. No audio dropouts, but a little muffled. Sound is fine. Keep going. Thanks, Ben. Okay, we'll get this open. This, like I say, is a little bit like turning up at the Distillery Visitor Centre. I need to watch what I'm pouring, of course. And being able to pick up a bottle direct from the distillery. But in the absence of a visitor centre at Loch Lomond, what we have here is Michael Henry's pet projects, his personal picks. So he's really played with this. He's brought some peated stuff over the years, peated blends. He's brought some single distillery blends. He's brought out a couple of different takes with the Chardonnay yeast and things. Now that this spirit is lovely and mature now, they've been making this Chardonnay yeast-based spirit for quite a while at Loch Lomond. This one is 12 years old. One of the Aquavite bottlings, interestingly, was 14 years old. So we've got some nice age into this liquid now, and it's just getting better and better. What's really exciting for me about this one is it looks to be exclusively matured in refill casks. Now, the 14-year-old that came out from me was a refill hoggy, but the 10-year-old and the 12-year-old have both been from first fill casks. So, I am excited to give this a wee try. Just open. The specs I've just given you, £70 delivered to the customer. Sorry, I say delivered to customer. I think I can't remember. It used to be £70 to get free shipping. I don't remember if that's the case now, because I bought 2 of these. Aquavite, just drink the whiskey. We don't need sound. We're mostly here just to gaze upon your beauty anyway. Well, even that's not happening very well tonight with the smudgy scene, Jimmy. I've done a terrible job of building the setup back again. Anyway, cheers everyone. There's just an amazing... I need to tell you a wee anecdote about this, actually. Any of you that came to the Glasgow Whisky Festival weekend events, you've already tried this. At the under the table tasting at the Piper Bar on Friday afternoon, we had 7 wonderful epic drams. Most of them were things that were not available to buy, and some of them were never going to be able to buy. But some of them, like Springbank, brought along the new Sherrywood. 1 or 2 others brought along things that you could get a hold of, but they were just a bit special. And this one was one that was brought along with imminent release in the weeks ahead. And it's come out since. But we put it in the middle of the lineup with some quite big, heavy, big-hitting, moody drams either side of it. And I was a wee bit worried about the rationale behind me putting that bottle there, but I was very glad that I did on the day, speaking very personally. So I was sat at a table with some of the team from Springbank and Cadenheads, Julie from Decadent Drinks, Daniel Key was sitting at the table. We're just sitting off to the side, and this dram came along in that lineup. And we nosed it, and we could immediately pick up, there's just amazing fruit on this. I'm getting a big hit of kind of fruity bonbons, strawberry bonbons, but also juicy fruit gum, kind of fizzy sherbet type fruit. Loads and loads, a huge burst of orchard, bright, crisp, fresh, sweet apple. Lots of citrus, sweet citrus. Bright pink, ruby red grapefruits. Just a blast of fruit. This is like nosing a really super fruity, well-aged Glentochers. I remember sitting at the table with those people, and we went quiet as Michael finished introducing us to it and telling us what it was and how he came to make it. Everybody took a wee sip. And I kid you not, 2 people at the table at the same time said, wow, and neither of them were me. So it's just a different take on whiskey. If you've tried the Aquavite Loch Lomond bottlings, you'll be familiar with the style, this profile. But there's 630 of these available. This is probably the biggest outturn that they've done to date of this really, really exclusive range. 630 of these, they're still available now, I think. I should have checked before I went live tonight, but up to the point earlier in this week, there were still some available. Delicious whiskey. And you know that way that you sometimes need a wee bit of a reset from whiskey? You're just a bit whiskied out. You're feeling a little bit kind of, you're not sure what you're in the mood for. Well, my advice would be, if you find yourself in that situation, just step back and take a wee break. Switch it up for a bit, whatever. But there is another answer. There's another, if you are in the mood for a dram, but you just don't know what, and you're not feeling the big heavy peat, you're not feeling the moody kind of sherry casks and things, you're not sure. This is like a palate reset, effervescent injection of freshness. It's just incredible. This flavour can be delivered from grain. It's just fantastic. I specifically mean under the radar here. The people who know, and they're buying this religiously. They don't care what the specs are. A new DE Distillery edition comes out from Loch Lomond. People are just pressing buy. And I suspect most people are doing what I'm doing now. They're buying one and buying a backup, such as the trust. They don't need to kind of buy one and then go back again and risk it being sold out. They're buying two at a time. 144 in stock, says Andrew Pearce. It's really good that they give you that number, right? That they tell you that how many there is. So there's a lot of people that know about this now, because it's been out for a couple of weeks now, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, I'm not sure. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks, I think. And that suggests that they've sold almost 500 of them. £70 for Cask Strength 12-year-old whiskey. The price point is right. I think it's just, it's a special range of products right now, a really special range. And it really showcases that kind of, it's been a long time since anybody's talked about Loch Lomond being a kind of Willy Wonka whiskey factory, because I think it was a wee bit rude, but it was a very, very quick express way for people to communicate what was capable of being made at that facility. What we're able to do now is not understand, but actually taste what's being made. Through their core releases, certainly, but now through these distillery exclusive releases, Michael's given us this kind of look-see, this letterbox view and taste of what is actually been going on behind the scenes there. It's just fabulous. I'm not noticing too much of a difference from this being refill casks. Maybe if I sipped it in comparison to one of my first fill casks, I'd maybe pick it up. But what a start that is, an absolute banger. Glad I bought a backup, but I knew that I would be glad because I got to try it in advance. Donner Pass Whiskey Tim is saying mostly Cask Strength bottles for me, but nearly all indies, as K&L brings so much for value prices. Linkwood 13 Ruby Port Barrique full maturation, 58.2% up next. So that's K&L Wines, which is somewhere near San Francisco, isn't it, Tim? That you've picked up there. And Burkey has bought me a dram as well. Just a wee thanks for all you do. Cheers, Roy. Burkey, that's awfully nice of you, fella. Thank you, my friend. It's nice to have you in here, and it's nice to have you participating when you make it in, buddy. Thank you for the virtual dram, Burkey, and thank you for the dram, Tim, as well. Cheers. I don't know if I raised a glass to our pal Jimmy. Controversial opinion, Aquavite. As delicious as it is it enough different from other Chardonnay yeast Loch Lomond bottles? No. Here's the thing. If you want to go out and have an experience of the Chardonnay yeast from Loch Lomond right now, you've got the 2020 open release that's long gone. It's super scarce now. You've got occasional releases through the Distillery Edition series. Maybe they'll do something as another kind of, if they continue to sponsor the Open, they'll maybe release a special or something like that. But all of these so far have been really, really small scale, 200 bottle type outturns of single cask things. And they're not always, it's almost like you need to know, you need to learn that it's Chardonnay yeast that's been used. I would say this is very, very similar to most of the other Chardonnay yeast releases, but there's so little of it about that if you love it, get your hands on it. The fact that it's out there at Cask Strength, the fact that it's out there on point when it comes to price as well, is even better. Helen is saying, sorry Helen, it jumped there just as I was about to grab your comment. I'll roll back up and hopefully get it. Never mind Under the Radar Cask Strength, defo an Under the Radar distillery for which we are grateful for. I wonder if Loch Lomond is still under the radar now. I think people close to it, or people that are close to the liquid, no, I think they're actually holding themselves a wee bit back now, because so much of their great stuff is still coloured. You know, they've almost got there, right? They've got their 12-year-old core range out there. Let's forget about the non-age statement stuff, the stuff that they sell through supermarkets and multiples. Non-age statement, cheaper price point. If you look at their core range 12-year-old, we've got the original, we've got Inchmore and Inchmurrin. Still adding colour there, just because of their legacy marketplace. We need to kind of help them give up on that. And as time's gone on, hopefully there'll be less pressure for dark whiskey, because dark whiskey sells. There's a lot of pressure put on them, on producers generally from the marketplace, to have darker whiskey. We need to teach people that whiskey that's this pale can taste this gorgeous. We need to change that attitude. Brian Stormont is saying, excited to hear you talking about this. Mine was undelivered because the house was empty, but coming tomorrow when I'm off. Never been disappointed by their distillery releases. You're not going to be disappointed by this one either, buddy. I suspect, Brian, you're going to love it too. Ahoy malt mates, good to see you in, everyone. Good to see Chris in. Always nice to welcome you here, buddy. You've been here from the very beginning, as has my pal Richard Hall, who's in, saying, funnily enough, I'm on the Loch Lomond Edition 6. Absolutely loving these bottlings. Currently my go-to whiskey. The only bottles of whiskey I buy in pairs. Thank you again, Michael Henry. There's consensus here, and a lot of people will talk about echo chambers and things like that, and we've got to acknowledge that that is a dynamic that can happen amongst groups and communities and, you know, cohorts of people that come together to enjoy something together. It definitely can happen. But I pour this for, and the anecdote I share with you about the boys from Cadenheads and Springbank and things drinking this and saying, wow, there's consensus here. This is not just one or two individuals deciding that they like something. There's something really quite special about this liquid. If I was to suggest somewhere else to go to get something like that, it would need to be one of these really fruity old 90s or early 2000s Glen Talkers or something. Not an easy thing to get a hold of. Arnie is saying, just tried my first sip of Benromac Cask Strength. Holy whack-a-mole, that's a belter. You've discovered it. Good for you, Arnie. Welcome to the slippery slope. Dave Barnes is saying, just ordered mine and got 10% off and a free delivery. Wow, fantastic, Dave. Good stuff. Listen, I'm not here to sell this. Those 144 bottles are going to disappear. I would just love that if barflies like the profile and like what I'm speaking about, I would like you guys to be able to get it. That's why I'm suggesting that what we're dealing with here is something that is definitely a wee bit under the radar. Just terrific. Just excellent whiskey. And I knew I was going to be in good shape to start tonight's session from that. Despite only trying a wee bit of it on that Friday, I knew that it was an insta-buy when it appeared. Alan Smith is saying, Roy, keep it up on the QT, says the Q on the keep it on the QT. He wants it quiet. He wants it kept quiet. Well, I would suspect the only reason they've released that for 630 bottles is it's based on, I think edition 1 was only 90 bottles, or maybe it was more than that, I'm not sure. Edition 1 was very small, and it's kind of gradually get bigger, the releases. I think the last one, 5 or 6, was about 500, 600 something. This is 630, which I think is their biggest outturn. So they're just kind of starting to release more and more. The worst thing they can do is have something that sits in the warehouse for far too long. If this does take off and there's an appetite for it, and I hear what you're saying about keeping it quiet, Alan, I suspect that they have the stocks. I hope they've got the stocks to bring more to us. And Doodle Arnie is saying, more than happy to slip down that slope with all of yous. Nice to have you along for the ride, buddy. Shane Brogan is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 24 months. Thank you, Shane. We'll catch up in the replay, but congrats on 7 years. Thank you, buddy. It's nice to have you along for the ride, and it's nice for you to say hello before you pick it up on the replay. If you're picking it up on the replay now, Shane, welcome back. Dave the Brave has joined the Aquavitae Barflies. Thank you, Dave. That means a lot. Thank you for your support. And Mike at Inverurie Whisky Shop has bought 5 Aquavitae memberships. How generous. Thank you so much, Mike, for your support. Okay, let's move on. Normally, I would be looking at the Bunnahabhain 12-year-old Cask Strength and I would be buying that as well as an Insta-buy to see how it compares to the previous years. We've had 3 releases of that out now, 21, 22 and 23. 21 was a bit of a misfire for me, but 22 and 23 were crackers. Easy to recommend. I felt the price was a wee bit expensive when it first came out, but it's proved to me that it's able to perform at that price point in the last couple of years. But there is no, it's academic, there's no Bunnahabhain 12 this year. I don't know why. I suspect it's because you can still buy, and depending on the market where you are, it depends, of course, everything I'm speaking about is based on the UK perspective, but I know out there in the wider markets, you're still able to buy 2022 and 2023 Bunnahabhain 12-year-old cask strengths. They were fairly big outturns. So they're maybe just taking a break for a year, letting the market drink up on their previous years and then return to the 12-year-old next year. What they did this year is they brought out a 21-year-old Bunnahabhain cask strength. Interesting, but it was £275. So I'm out. I got to try it at the Glasgow Whisky Club. It was delicious whiskey, no question, but it didn't make me want to put it on my Christmas list, let's say that. So in place of the Bunnahabhain's annual staple release, we've got something from Ardnamurchan that has become almost an annual staple release. The first year that this went out to market, 2022, it was so popular that they released one in the start of the year, springtime, and then in wintertime they released another edition of it. And then they released another in 2023, and now we have here 2024 release. We've lost that batch signifier on the cask strength from Ardnamurchan. The 0222 and then the 0922 was on the label originally, but now we've switched to this much more generic AD cask strength release, which is fine for me, but I think we need more than just the ABV to keep up on batches. It's brilliant that they've got the QR code there, that you can scan this QR code and it'll tell you everything from your bottle number to the cask makeup, who bottled it, and all the details that you need to know and everything that you don't need to know as well. The transparency is here. But I don't think it helps if you're buying just this from a retail shelf at a distance online or something like that. It's not easy to see. Maybe you're picking something up on auction, and maybe you're at that point where you're having to follow the ABV in order to work out what the batch is. Regardless, the 2024 ABV is 58.3%. Now, I'm asking a lot of this Ardnamurchan to follow that flavour bomb, that fruit bomb of a Loch Lomond that I've just had. It's just so defined. I wonder if I'm at the stage now where I could pick out Ardnamurchan blind. For being somebody who suffers from a bit of peat blight, there's quite a bit of peat on this one. Quite a bit of peat. I should have checked what the cask makeup was. I could do it live, but I'll no bother. I'll just see if it's working. I'll do a wee QR code scan right now. Yeah, this is quite smoky, and because I'm coming at this right on the back of that fruity Loch Lomond, it's completely unpeated. The smoke's standing out. But before I reached the smoke, I got this really clearly defined acidic, briny, coastal, mineralic blast of clear, profound silver Ardnamurchan. My bottle, it's always a low number I seem to get, what is 130 of 7,222. It's not a huge outturn, 7,222 bottles of AD Cask Strength 2024. So they are calling it 2024. Discover complete traceability, maturation, see the cask data for this batch, brilliant, and it takes you to a PDF. That's not loading. Anyway, I hope you can do that at home on your own. You do have the ability to download and save a PDF. I think that's what I'm going to be forced to do for this one. I'm going to have to save it and then open it up again because it's maybe just the ability to view it. And that would tell us how many unpeated casks, what kind of casks they were, how many peated casks and what kind of casks they were is used in this vatting to make up 7,000 bottles. There's a nice kind of, it's a kind of acidic, briny rock pool. The fruit here is still orchard, but it's the complete opposite where we were sweet apple in the Loch Lomond. This is green apple. This is Granny Smith apple. Crunchy, sharp fruit. So, it's green. Cheers. Interestingly, with that PDF, it'll be able to tell us the age of the individual casks as well. It's amazing that I didn't even think about that until I took a sip there. Ardnamurchan are one of these new distilleries that's taught us how to relax about age statement, to go on quality. Ardnamurchan's a blind buy for me now. I've never been let down. 58.3% this one, and it sips very, very well. It's very well behaved for that. The ABV is there, the grip is there, that communicative potency is there. More so than the Loch Lomond, I think. The Loch Lomond just distracts you with its flavour fizz. Whereas this is much more of quite a bold, defined Highlander. It's quite a strong whiskey, it's quite robust. This is the kind of whiskey that I suspect is much more like the profile of what Scotch whiskey was once upon a time known as, where you've kind of got that smoky element, that kind of briny element in the mix. Back in the days of blends, when people had their favourite blend. It's very Scotch whiskey. Nice texture. It's just every time I sip Ardnamurchan liquid, I become more and more excited about the future, because potentially we're going to be able to dip into more and more mature stock for these vattings, for these blends and things, and we're going to be able to drink more and more mature Ardnamurchan whiskey as time goes on. We've got 7 bottles to get through tonight, but honestly, if we were to stop there after those first 2, we've got 2 fantastic bookends of whiskey's bandwidth. We've got a bright, light, fruity ex-bourbon, actually ex-refill, and then we've got this kind of peaty, smoky, bold, much more defined West Coast style of Scotch whiskey. So to make that perfect triangle, cask strength style, where would we go from there? Where would we go? We would go something that's been using sherry casks. Something that's going to give us that kind of sherry mix. So we put it up against our Loch Lomond, our Ardnamurchan, and we've got the trifecta. We've got the 3 kind of pillars, the extreme pillars, if you like, of Scotch whiskey profile and style. So that's where we're going to move next. Let's see if you can guess what I've got. You might have picked up some clues from me picking that up already. Yet to have a bad dram from Ardnamurchan, says Helen. Worth the hype in our book. Yeah, the hype is when things are, I talk about this a lot, artificially raised, but in the context of where you use it, I understand completely, Helen. I think it's consensus what we're enjoying here with Ardnamurchan. It's not guaranteed everyone's going to love it, but there's enough people trying Ardnamurchan now that they want it as part of their collection. Everyone is saying one of my favourite cask strength whiskies is Tamdhu Batch Strength. Batch 1 specifically is saying Andy Kilkerran 8, 57.1. I haven't opened my Boona 12 cask strength yet. Ooh. I suspect, based on how much you loved that 57.1 Kilkerran, it's one of the original ones that came in a tall round bottle, and the Tamdhu Batch 1, these are heavily sherried things. So depending on which 12 cask strength you have, hopefully it's 2022 or 2023, I suspect you're going to enjoy it, Chris. When you open it, let us know how you got on. David is saying, can you get a rosemary note from that Ardna smoke? Ardna is at a stage where you probably don't need more data. If you can get it, get it. It's all great stuff. Rosemary, fantastic. Oh, I know where you are. I can just, fantastic, David. Power of suggestion. I wouldn't have picked rosemary, I don't think, but there's a kind of nice dry green herby note. Yeah. It's bloody Moorish as well. You've got to be careful with cask strength stuff, right? You've got to. It can sneak up on you. Stay hydrated. Keep the pores small. Keep the sips small. No need for me to preach. You're all grown up and adults, but the way to sip cask strength is with respect, definitely. So, for our sherry fix, to fix the triangle here, what we're going to do is we're going to move to something that I'm going to call an ignored cask strength. The reason that this is ignored is not because you're ignoring it. It's not because the community is ignoring it, that the wider whiskey world is ignoring it. I'm talking about ignored in the sense of the ignored series on the vPub. Things that, despite them existing and being there, I seem to be a wee bit delinquent talking about them. And it's not, I feel a wee bit guilty at times. I feel like it's unfair. Because it's not because I've not enjoyed the liquid. It's not because I've not enjoyed getting to know them or exploring them. I seem to have bought less and therefore shared less with you. So this is Kingsbarns, a Distillery Reserve. I showed everyone what these were up front, so obviously you would have known what it was. But this is a 2024 release. And the thing that I'm surprised, it says cask strength on the label, which is great. Tells us about the cask makeup. It's all ex-Oloroso sherry casks in here as well. This is an exclusive limited edition that they're doing. It's fairly decent outturn, I think. There's enough of it out there. But what they're doing here is releasing their oldest whiskey to date. But I looked everywhere on the label for an age on this. It may be on the box, but the box is gone. This is 8 years old. And I know that because of the press release that came. So this is 8 years matured in ex-Oloroso casks. Now, that usually commands quite a price. And I think this is maybe our most expensive bottle tonight. You're going to have to pay between £70 and £75 for this, depending on where you buy it from. There might be offers out there that you can get it a wee bit cheaper. Is it going to be out of sight? But this is going to represent, alongside our bright refill bourbon from Loch Lomond and our peaty smoky number from Ardnamurchan, this is going to bring along our sherry kick. Wow. So this is, I would suggest, you can smell that this is sherry casks. But this is quite restrained. So we're not getting a lot of super sweet syrup and fudge and date. This is kind of more like a dried fruit, nutty, baking spice, fairly straight down the line, typical sherry profile, but in check. From nosing this, I would suspect, I would guess that this was a vatting. It's not. It tells us on the label that it's all ex-Oloroso. But in order just to give you some, it noses like American oak, just to give you some idea of how that sherry is actually really quite restrained. And now, as I look at it, as I appreciate the colour of this as well, up against the naturally coloured Ardnamurchan, you can see that the Kingsbarns is quite a notch or two darker. But you wouldn't call this a dark whiskey. This is kind of just a wee bit right of the midpoint, I would say, in the colour spectrum. A wee bit of a pleasant menthol type note. A little bit berry green. Raspberry, gooseberry, kind of like almost like a hedgerow green type thing. But the sherry is the thing here. The nutty dried fruit. There's nothing earthy, nothing heady, nothing moody aromatic here. This is quite bright, clean, straight sherry. ABV's pretty decent on it as well, 58.2%. All very similar ABVs so far. Cheers, everyone. Why have I ignored Kingsbarns? Why did I feel like I've ignored Kingsbarns? I think the only reason for it is, in the past I've talked about the core release range. It's featured as part of the ignored, I'm pretty sure. There's been topics in the past where I've been able to leverage in Kingsbarns, but it doesn't get talked about a lot. I think it's because of the sheer choice that we have today. You forget that there's a whole renaissance in whisky happening in the lowlands, just from one corner of the lowlands, and that is the region of Fife, the kingdom itself. Lindores, Daftmill, Edenmill, Kingsbarns, Inchdairney. Eight years old. The most mature Kingsbarns to date. Really quite a nice, confident thing that they've done there, putting together an 8-year-old vatting of Oloroso casks. Don't know how many bottles this is. Maybe it would tell us on it. Probably told me on the box before I tossed the box out. It's got some taste notes and things on there. It doesn't tell us how much of an outturn it is. I would suggest, and I wasn't going to do it tonight, I was going to keep everything at Cask Strength. I would strongly recommend that everyone, especially when you're enjoying higher ABV or Cask Strength whiskies, you keep a little bit of water, whether it's just a wee dropper, a wee jug, a teaspoon in a glass. Keep it on the side and on the go, because you're going to be enjoying these Cask Strength whiskies, and you're going to get used to, your palate will adjust to, your brain will adjust to this higher ABV. But you will have more fun and you will have more discovery if you're in a position, in a mood, in a mind to add a few wee drops of water. I think what I've done with that wee splash of water is actually amplify that baking spice thing. Well, probably this will dissipate in time. And we'll be able to get into maybe some of the more fruit side of things, maybe softer fruits. It's definitely jammy now. Still getting that berry thing, but a bit of jam in here. Try it with a wee bit of water. Yeah. Sweeter, jammier, fruitier, crystallised fruits, toffee apple, preserve, jam, berries, that type of thing. We've now got Fife whisky. Daftmill are approaching, 19 years now? 20 years next year, won't it be? Kingsbarns, next year will be 9-10 years. It's Ardnamurchan have already released a 10-year-old. So not only is it we're having trouble keeping up with the amount of new distilleries, we're keeping up with how they're maturing so quickly. This is a wee release from Fife, exclusively in Oloroso casks. I think they should have made more of a fuss about the 8-year age statement on here. Maybe they didn't want to put a single digit age statement on there. It's definitely something to celebrate. Willie Buchanan's saying, hi Roy, too much whiskey, not enough pension. Well, That's one of the issues. The other issues is our health and how much it's reasonably comfortable for us to enjoy Willie, right? We do have to, I think when we do keep balance there, we amplify the enjoyment quite a bit. I think if we're not having enough, then of course we're starved of enjoyment. But we can slip in the other direction as well, where we can have a wee bit too much. And I noticed that I talked about it on the vPub that we did on this very topic last year. And I've noticed it over recent weeks as well, where there's just so many whiskey events that I've actually benefited hugely from skipping a couple and not attending all the club nights, all the events, all the tastings, all the mates nights that you have the ability to go along to. Just staying home a wee bit more. If you are having a dram, you're maybe having a single dram on the sofa rather than having sitting here with glasses in front of you and having a flight. What it does mean is that when you do have those events, when you do get together, the whiskey enjoyment is amplified. I find time and time again, it's not an easy thing to pull off, I'll be honest with you all, but the more balance that you keep, the more enjoyment you have. What Lolander is saying, I was impressed with the Kingsbarns Cask Strength bottle I tried fairly recently. I think most people that would come to Kingsbarns for the first time would absolutely be impressed. Doodle Dram is saying, my colleague always lovingly refers to Cask Strength whiskies. I give him as gut rot. It's right, because his brain has not adjusted to the high ABV. He tastes the heat. He tastes the heavy, heavy spice. He tastes the challenging aspect of Cask Strength. And it takes us a wee while. It's not difficult for us to remember what it was like when we first started to sip neat spirits and then climb that ladder of ABV. And now we find ourselves really loving the spirits at a higher ABV, especially when the flavour and everything is left intact. David is saying, when it comes to Cask Strength, I'm very much a Ralphie apprentice, always adding water until to get that bliss point, and I encourage you to continue doing that. Ralphie's been right round the dial, and he's settled on a spot in that dial where he just reaches for water for most things. Hellswood is saying peppermint tea, another peppermint tea, and a Loch Lomond 14-year-old for himself. Cheers. The Aquaviti Loch Lomond 14-year-old as well. Fantastic, Helen. Let me know how Andy is enjoying that, won't you? Looks like is the sound gone a bit sideways again? I've not had an alcoholic drink since August 2024. It says Whiskey Throttle. Oh, wow. I hope your health's okay, Daniel. It's nice to see you in, buddy. I hope that that's a choice rather than anything that's been put on you. But it's nice to have you here regardless. Lolander is saying, does that include skipping vPubs too? Yes, if that's what you need to do. Seriously, Lolander, in order to help keep a bit of balance, the vPubs are always here optionally. There's no commitment to you turning up at every time or picking up on the replay or whatever. That's here to suit your mood and moment when it suits you. And the sound is fine, Aquaviti, says Ben. No sound problems here where I'm sitting. Somebody's given me the wee embarrassed face, suggesting that there might be. Okay, we continue. So, the ignored Cask Strength is our Kingsbarns. And number 3 I've already shared with you, and that's that concept of the annual release. So we've already been through that. The reason that I went through it and changed the order at the last minute here is because I just liked the idea of going through the extremes. I could have done it in the original order. But the way I went for it in the end was to go the Ardna first and then the Kingsbarns. So we've got through the ignored, through the regular, and through that under the radar thing. We've managed to also incidentally cover the 3 kind of bookend profiles: the sherry cask maturation, bourbon cask maturation, and a peated whiskey. Now obviously these things can be mixed up. We can have peated sherry, we can have first fill bourbon peat and refill bourbon peat and all the rest of it. There's lots of different ways to mix it up, but if you're coming to whiskey for the first time or you're leading somebody into whiskey for the first time, it's interesting to do it in that way with those profiles, because what you tell them just from grain and water and the maturation cask, you've got 3 things in 3 glasses that really taste like different drinks, and I think it's fascinating. So if we move on to our category 4 right now, not because I'm particularly excited to get it open, we're going to talk about our unicorn Cask Strength. This was not intended to be in the lineup here this time, but I want to talk to you a wee bit about something that's happening in whisky recently, which I suspect has meant that I've been able to get my hands on a Springbank 12 Cask Strength, the first time in a long, long time. It's probably from 2020, late 2020, through to 2024, I didn't see this bottle of whiskey available for sale anywhere. Now, it was always difficult to get a hold of. It's not the type of thing you would walk in and find on the shelf generally. Everybody knew when it was coming out roughly, and they knew whether they were going to pick up this batch or wait till the next batch. And there was always a sense that it was going to sell out within a few weeks, a month or so, whatever it was. It's time it got quicker and quicker. But towards the last recent years, and certainly as it approached COVID, things started to pick up and it was harder to get hold of. When COVID hit, it became impossible to get a hold of. However, I put it to you that regardless of what the whiskey brand is that you're chasing, it's becoming a wee bit easier to get a hold of it again. Is that because they're making more? They're selling more? No. There might be a wee bit of that, but that's not what's making the difference. The reason that we're getting a hold of these now, the reason that more of us are able to get a hold of them now, and once again I apologise, you're probably sitting somewhere, you'd love to get the opportunity to pay retail. What Springbank intend is the retail. I'm not talking about the retail in your market where you are, which can be stupid. You would love it, and I know it's difficult for you. You can't. I share things at my perspective because I can't really do anything else. Bottle 4 uncorking tonight. Very grateful to have this. What they do at the Good Spirits Company is they'll have it off the shelf, and then occasionally, just at random points of the day, they'll put one on the shelf. Really, really fortunate to have a fair and super ethical retailer in Glasgow. I hope you've got one close to you where you are as well in the Good Spirits Company that try and do things as fairly as possible. But it's the second time I've been able to pick up a Springbank 12 Cask Strength in 2024. The one that came out, the 57.2% ABV one, I think, that came out earlier in the year, I managed to get through Good Spirits. And this one was 56.2, and I managed to get this too. Okay, so we've got 4. We don't have 3. We don't have this triangle of ex-bourbon, peat, and sherry. We've now got a square because this is completely different. And it's not even like we can say, oh, if we mixed a bit of sherry and a bit of peat, we could get something close to this or whatever. Okay, there's some truth in it, but nosing this straight away, it's a completely different animal altogether. This is, I don't know where to start with this. This is just an uncorking as well. This is just fresh in the glass. This bottle's been sitting here waiting for about 2 weeks, maybe more, a bit longer than that. 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. It's settled. There's plenty of time to just sit there and wait. And it's alive, immediately alive. But it's got a kind of real sense of autumnal mulch about it. It's got a little bit of wood shop about it, a little bit of kind of oily rag, a little bit of creosote. It's got some really quite dark plums, but there's a sourness to it against the freshness of the first 3 whiskies. I've got quite a challenging sourness to things. It's so heady, so kind of thick, so dense. Everything's gone dark red, and it's not the label that's putting that in my head, it's the nose, it's the way this is nosing. There's some sugar here, it's like a dark Demerara dark sugar. Yeah, even a kind of almost vaguely mushroom thing. But it doesn't smell like mushrooms, it just makes me think of that. Just heady, just as thick. Anyway, cheers. Ah. So I've not looked this up. Usually it's never on the label, but you get to hear, and they talk about it, the ratio of sherry casks, the ratio of bourbon casks, and if they've used any other casks in the mix or whatever. And sometimes you'll occasionally get an oddball where it's exclusively ex-bourbon or whatever. So I don't know what the makeup of this is. I suspect it's a mix of both with a heavy leaning towards sherry on this one. But there is a reason why, and it's immediately, because of how dense this spirit is, it's not just about the ABV. You know the pleasure you're going to get from adding drops of water to this guy. It's not because you want to attenuate heat. It's not because you want to bring out softer elements. It is because you immediately appreciate that what we're dealing with here is really quite, the only word for it is, and I know I'm overusing it until I think of another way to describe it, that density. It's almost like you want to unpack things. So a few wee drops of water. Okay, there's a kind of brightness here, like a rhubarb thing. Let's go with sweet dipped rhubarb. If anybody's tried such a thing, where you take stalks of rhubarb and dip it in sugar, that was something that we did as children. I don't know if there's anybody else in here as old as me to remember such a thing. But that just a suggestion of that. So we've gone a wee bit sweeter, I think, with the water. But rhubarb's quite a tart thing, and I can see why I'm talking about rhubarb, because I've got that. Maybe it's a citric thing, like candied orange peel. So it's sweet and acidic, sweet and citrus, sugar and rhubarb. But that funky element of things, that work shed thing, still here. Plum jam. Resin, wow. Oily, like it's the work shed thing. I'm not talking about oily, viscous. I'm not talking about texture. I'm talking about the creosote, bizarre kind of thing. It's one of those whiskies you're just gonna. This is the type of dram that makes you want to reach for a pen and paper. It makes you want to start taking notes. It's ridiculous. Breathing backwards and forwards now, there's a licorice note. Aniseed, yes, but I'm thinking more like a confectionery, strawberry lace type licorice. Just ridiculously long finish. I should maybe open a Springbank 12 cask strength one day and say, it's alright. It's Springbank, yeah, whatever. And then people don't suffer from FOMO or whatever when they can't get hold of this stuff. But it's hard, and when you open this whiskey, the whiskey is kind of taking control. It's almost like you become the puppet for what the whiskey is going to make you think, make you feel, and maybe express. I'm just kind of moved by the flavour and the way the thing is smelling, and it just comes out. And often, especially with these uncorkings and these first reaction type things, it's live. It's difficult to act it out. You have to just let it out. And it's kind of this, it's just, there's a density here, a complexity here that I guarantee you, dram by dram, pour by pour, sip by sip even, drop by drop of water, it's going to take you all across the spectrum. And it's not because of it's not like it's a super, super sherry bomb. It is, but it is in so many different ways. Incredible. It's just incredible whiskey. Not an easy whiskey to place in a lineup, Not an easy whiskey to match with your mood. Sometimes you'll pick it up and it'll just not be what you're in the mood for. It's not the way your palate's set up. And other times you'll pick it up and you'll just be completely smitten. And I suspect that what's happened to me tonight is the latter. It's caught me right in the feels. David Hong's bought my wee dram from Hong Kong. Thank you so much, David. Thank you for your support, buddy. I know it's very late out where you are right now. No, sorry. You're not in Hong Kong, are you? Of course you're not. You're in the States. You're in the US. So you're behind us. I'm getting you confused with my pal, Justin. Thank you very much, buddy. Thank you, David, for your support. Jesse Artanzalo is celebrating being a member of the Barflies for 36 months. Saying good evening, Aquavite, and Barflies 3 years already. Thank you so much, Jesse. It goes by quickly, doesn't it? I'm very grateful for your support. And Shane Brogan is celebrating being a member for 2 years. We'll catch up on replay, but congrats on 7 years, Shane. I think I mentioned yours a wee bit earlier, but thank you again. 4 Cask Strength whiskies in. You're supposed to be reminding me to stay hydrated, right? 3 and a bit years of registered vPub fun. I know for a fact, Ben, that you've been in for a hell of a lot longer than that. Still long enough for you to earn that wee pink barfly, buddy. Thank you very much for your support, my friend. And Arnie is saying the Springbank 12 and the Blind Challenge immediately punched the Campbelltown vibe into the nose. The only thing I tried that dials that dense sour up even more is Coquerin 8 Sherry. Incredible. So Arnie's referencing the Aquavite Blind Challenge that we did in Glasgow a month ago. And there was a Springbank 12 in the lineup there. That was the first bottle I bought this year from Good Spirits Company. And I managed to secure a second bottle with the help of Peter Lee in order for that to be introduced to the lineup in the Blind Challenge. So I was able to share my luck with everyone in that blind tasting. It went down quite well. And Tim Lux has just bought me a dram from the States. I cracked my first Springbank 12 Cask Strength on Thanksgiving. Not disappointed. Cheers. I wonder then if that's, I know that you're probably a wee bit behind us, so it's probably the 57.2% that you, that was the one I shared in the blind. But Tim, it might be that you're in the US and you've been able to pick up one from the past. Regardless, I'm glad that you're not disappointed and you've got the potential to enjoy that changing and challenging you in the months and weeks ahead. David is saying, Aquavite, should we get a drink water emoji? Lol. And that's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. I've probably got some more emoji that I'm able to introduce to things now. I should probably consider doing that. All right, let's keep moving on. How are we doing for time? An hour and a half in. Okay, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. But I've got 3 bottles left. I did promise you 7. We're 4 in. I don't need to open all 3. There's one of them that maybe doesn't need to be opened, but I'm curious, so I probably will. But we have had some peat already. We've had some peat in Ardnamurchan. We've had some peat in that Springbank, although not much peat in the Springbank. To my palate, you would detect peat probably more than I would. We're going to move into, we're going to stick in Campbelltown for a wee bit. Then we're going to go over to Islay and we're going to finish, believe it or not, in the Lowlands. Who would have thought such a thing, finishing a flight like tonight in the Lowlands? This is Glen, Scotia's Victoriana. I should point out, actually, just as I open this one, how I'm referring to this. Our unicorn is clearly our Springbank 12 Cask Strength. But I'm referring to this as our Permashelf Cask Strength. This, for me, is my Permashelf Cask Strength bottle of whiskey. Does this say Cask Strength on it? Yes, it does. It says Cask Strength, natural colour, non-chill filtered, 54.2% ABV, deep charred oak casks, elegant and rich. Glen, Scotia's Victoriana. This has been out for a decade now. This is quite a well-known thing. And it's changed ever so slightly in the branding over the years, but the recent branding that's just been replaced is this. The last bottle I bought was this. This is 54.2% ABV as well, which makes me think, Do they do a Glenfarclas here, and do they VAT? So Glenfarclas is cask strength, but everything goes out at 105 degrees imperial proof, which is 60% ABV. I made a mistake on the Cask Strength vPub in the past by suggesting that they VAT it and then they reduce it to 60%, but I'm wrong. They VAT it to 60%, or let's say just a nudge above 60% ABV in order to put that in the label. So I was corrected and I made the wee correction, no problem. But I think, I'm not sure what's happening here, whether Glen Scotia are reducing and maybe it shouldn't say cask strength on a label. I suspect it's more likely that they are vatting to get their 54.2% ABV, and the outturns are big enough, large enough that that's not too difficult for them to do. I'm not sure. It'd be nice if we could get clarification on such a thing. Cask strength means that there can be no water added. 54.2% on the old one, 54.2% on the one I've just picked up and opened tonight. But look at the difference here on height. It means that the new bottle, the new branding, I love because it fits comfortably in a Kallax shelving unit. Whereas this one does not. It hits. So thank you, Glen Scotia, for making my life a little bit more practical and easy. I'm not going to compare these two. This one's been open for a long time. But Glen ScotiaVictoriana is a bottle that I'll always tend to want to have around. I suspect we'll get a good glug from this one as well. Excellent. And look at colour. We can appreciate and enjoy the colour in this whiskey. Why? Because it tells us on the label that this is natural. Unfortunately for Loch Lomond Group, I've already had a wee go at them so far. It's not true on all of their products, although more and more and more are coming out with natural colour. All these distillery editions, Loch Lomond natural colour, the Stephen Fire natural colour, the rum cask, double cask Glen Scotia natural colour. It's great to see, and I don't think that we lose anything because of it. We only gain. It's a really difficult, a wee bit like the Springbank in the sense that it's difficult to immediately define and tie down. Let me try and remember the maturation of Glen ScotiaVictoriana. I know that from the point of making a decision, the lead time from that point of making a decision until it makes it into a bottle is 1.5 years for Glen Scotia, even when they've got the mature stock on hand. Because they tend to use a majority of about, if I understand well, the majority is refill bourbon and first fill bourbon that is married, a minimum of 10 years old, that is married and put together back into casks, then casks that make up 70% deep char bourbon casks and 30% PX. Now I'm not sure it matches that exact ratio every single vatting all of the time, but that's the flavour they're going for, deep char and then PX. And it goes into those casks for a further year before being taken out and then remarried back together again, and remarried for a couple of months before it finally gets bottled. If I've made any mistakes there, I apologise to anyone. But that's more or less the recipe here. So you can see what's involved in making this thing up. There's a lot of pre-planning. There's a lot of kind of trying to watch and keep a track on how much the market is going to need. So what you find with Victoriana is that it's available everywhere and then suddenly it's gone. It just disappears and you don't see it about for a little bit, and that's because it's kind of sold out and certain markets have dried up, and it takes a wee while for the supply chain to catch up again because it's malt whiskey, it's a batch made product, but specifically programs and complex maturations and recipes such as that can take a wee bit longer to catch up with demands. Just nose is like a fantastic thing. So we've got a little bit of that kind of complexity, that thing to unpack. You're not sure where to start. Where do I go on this? Do I go the malt side? Do I go the floral? Do I go the fruit? Do I go which avenue? So you just need to relax and let the whiskey. This has got some of those heady, jammy type elements that I was picking up in the Springbank without the kind of funk, without the mulch and the autumnal thing. This is brighter and fruitier, almost to the point that there's a butterscotch element to this, like a runny, sweet toffee syrup. And a brightness, a kind of sparkle, confectionery type style fruit. Sweet apple. I'm almost thinking about those. I'm just getting silly now and really obscure. I should shut up because there used to be a double dip sherbet thing. But the stick that you dipped with was a confectionery and it had its own flavour in its own right. So that kind of confectionery, almost like a fake strawberry type fruity confectionery note. Fruitellas, maybe that's a bit more widespread. But a brighter, lighter, fruitier element to the Springbank. Arguably, I should have had the Glen Scotia first. Let's have a wee sip. Cheers. Oh yeah, wow. Oh my goodness. So much brighter. Much more than the nose even suggested. So much more kind of that sweet strawberry and apple, almost a creaminess to it. Lots of kind of toffee caramel type notes, a bit of butterscotch. Wow. This is a lighter take on Victoriana. I would suspect if I was to pour these alongside each other, I would need to get another glass. I think this would be a darker, headier, mustier thing. In my memory, that's what it feels like it is than this newer version. Still delicious, fantastic, fantastic whiskey. 54.2%. For kicks, I added up the ABV of all the whiskies I'm sharing tonight and uncorking and divided it by the 7 bottles, and it came out almost exactly at 57.1%, which is exactly 100 proof. Just pure coincidence, just the way it worked out. Still by far the tallest bottle of the lineup here, so I'm going to keep it out of camera's view, put it back down here. But like I say, a wee bit more compact than it was and easier to store. This has got a dryness, a different, a slightly acidic, slightly bitter finish to it as well. So despite all that bright fruit and the toffee caramel butterscotch thing coming at the front end, there's a breathe as you kind of breathe over the finish. A nice kind of, it's almost like Murray mints. I'm getting quite obscure tonight, but it's a kind of, Murray mints are like a toffee butterscotch taste, like a mint toffee thing. So there's a kind of clean mintiness as I breathe afterwards. Just a great wee dram, a great whiskey. What did I pay for this? Again, Glen Scotia, this will run you £70 to £75. It's on offer here and there sometimes in the 60s, especially in recent times. And it's another thing that I'm starting to see, and I hope that you guys are seeing it where you are too. Prices are attenuating. They are being forced to come down. They're being forced to... Not everything can be on sale all the time, right? So the prices, especially back at the wholesale stage, they need to be priced at a point where the retailer has the ability to put it out at a price where they think they can actually sell the thing. Whether that's bricks and mortar, whether that's online. So we're seeing prices starting to become a little bit more realistic here and there. So where I was worried a year ago that the Glen Scotia was going to breach that £80 barrier, it's not happened. I think I saw this online for... I'm trying to think if this is one... I think this is one I just bought recently online. Not everywhere has this in stock right now. Like I say, it's one of these things that it just dries up and then it's replenished. But you can see why a whisky like this would make a nomination for the Oswas and then go on to win. The year it was nominated, it went on to win. It's something that you guys are loving too. Ben is saying the base liquid is 70% 10-year first fill bourbon, 10% 10 to 12-year peated first fill bourbon, and 20% 16 to 18-year-old refill American oak hogsheads. The whisky is then vatted and finished in 70% heavy charred American oak barrels and 30% first fill PX for 12 months before being married and refill bourbon for 3 to 6 months. I wonder where you got that from. Maybe from Dramface or something. So I was close, Ben. I was pretty close to the recipe, but thanks for popping that in. The original release was 51.5%, batch 1, single batch, not combined with any other, bottled at cask strength of 54.8%. Cask strength releases are bottled at 54.2%. So they must be vatting them together, Ben, I guess. We both know a guy who could probably answer it. Rob Smith is saying Roy is sleeping tomorrow. I have no commitments tomorrow morning. I am not in charge of driving the kids to school or whatever. I negotiated that well in advance. Tonight is Cask Strength night. Hopefully I'll keep myself straight and not slurring my words too much after getting through 7 drams with you. Note the size and the scale of the drams I'm pouring, and note that I am trying to remember to rehydrate. Oderte is saying Murray Mints are your granny's sweets. I loved them though. Murray Mints is a great shout, says Whiskey with Molly Ben. It's been so long since I've had them. It's kind of weird that Alistair McPhail is saying, don't forget that Victoriana was an Oswas winner. Thank you, Alistair. Thank you, buddy. And Cal Taylor is saying £61 on the Black Friday sale. That's a no-brainer, Kyle. A no-brainer. Doodle the Drama saying, Victoriana is one of the wackiest whiskies on my shelf. Not sure why, but it's pure picture book pirate whiskey for me. Talking parrots, tavern flights and all, bizarre fun in a bottle. You are in a very safe space, Arnie, that you can talk about things like that in any language or adjectives, phrases, terminology, whatever it is you want to use in order to articulate what you're getting from that whiskey. Regardless of how bizarre or fun it may be, you're in a good place to use that language. And I think the more that people can talk about that, the better whiskey becomes, the more fun whiskey becomes, because whether or not we vocalise it or even process it or think about it too much, it's happening to us all. Anybody that gets hooked on whiskey, that enjoys what whiskey can do from a flavour perspective, they are doing it. They're getting hooked because of the way that whiskey is affecting us. By flavour, I'm speaking about rather than ethanol. And if you can articulate that, and if you can be in a space where it's accepted and it's encouraged even, then that's a good thing. I like the way that Victoriana inspires pirates in you. Justin Wan, my pal, is in from Hong Kong. He's saying, Cask Strength vPub is the time. Every year I sip my Glenfarclas 105. Not the best, but solid for its value. So happy to be here tonight. Hey, Justin, we are so happy to have you here tonight. Whatever night it is, Cask Strength and otherwise, buddy. Hey, here's to Justin Wan in Hong Kong. Thanks for your dram, buddy. Pinched a handful of Murray Mints from our Edinburgh bed and breakfast. Good old-fashioned sweetie. So there's enough people in here that know what I'm talking about. Thank you, Helen. Thank you. And some of us, maybe it's an age thing, I don't know, but I think you can still easily buy Murray Mints everywhere. Supermarkets do generic versions of them too. So I've got 2 whiskies before we get into the quiz at the end tonight. And these 2... I didn't intend to open all 7 when I set things up tonight, but I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to end up opening all 7 because why not? And one of them came in late, and it's because somebody mentioned the Black Friday deals there that's going on, Victoriana for £61. We're finding this right now all over the place. We are finding ridiculous things happening, offers coming out that seem strange, that seems... almost too good to be true at times, and I was suspicious that that would be the case when the links for this was just, I was bombarded from so many people, thanks to everybody that thought of me and sent this link to me. This is no way a knock to anyone. I'm very, very grateful for it. But so many people were saying, here, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I was worried that it was some kind of scam. It was on Amazon, and this is a 2023 release, last year's release of Lagavulin's 12-year-old. It tells us down the bottom here in some far too small text. This is specifically the one that was finished in Don Julio tequila casks. Now that makes sense because Diageo owned Don Julio, so of course they've got access to the casks, and they've decided to take some refill or whatever Lagavulin and finish it in tequila casks to bring the 2023 release. I didn't fancy this, I didn't purchase it. I may have tried it at the time, I have no recollection or memory of that, but I didn't buy it. It was £140, £150 or something. Something that made me not pay any attention to. I was already boycotting the Diageo special releases with a small b, and yeah, I had no interest. But this, along with the 2023 Talisker, went on sale for £50, 1/3 of their original retail price. Now, I ignored it. A couple of days passed. It went back on sale again, £50 again. I ignored it. A couple of days passed. It went back on sale again. And eventually these links are coming through and you just click on it and it's there, it's available. And you think, okay, it's Amazon. I should be able to get my money back if it's a scam. So I decide to just go for it and I pay £50. And it took a week to arrive. Maybe not quite a week, but 5 days or something to arrive. But this arrived last week, earlier this week. £50. So I've got two clean glasses left, and I'm going to pour an age-dated 12-year-old Lagavulin. Okay, this is a good noise. Such a good noise. You can't beat the tall rounds, right? You can't beat the Diageo tall rounds. Any tall round for that perfect ceremonial glug. And I'm going to pour it up against what I would consider the best bang for your buck cask strength that you can buy right now. And I'm going on my experience of trying sips only and tearing my way through, and I mean tearing my way through last year's bottle of this. Why have I bought this again? There's two that I can buy here. Now there's got to be an easy way to do this, Glasgow, right? There's got to be an easy way to get through that plastic. Here we go. Not only have you to get through the plastic on this one, but it's got a locking cap on it as well. You need to turn before you pull. Ah, good. We should get a glug out of this as well. Now you know from the start of the session tonight that I was going to share this with you, but why am I doing the peated cask strength from Glasgow again? Why am I not going for their original? And I have to be honest with you, it's the time of year. This wee bottle for me, this peated PX, sorry, the cask strength and the original 46% peated PX was just such a winter warmer, perfect thing. I could pour it for anyone who liked smoky whiskey. That big hit of dense, heavy flavour. Cask driven, absolutely. By the way, don't let spirit snobs, whiskey snobs tell you that, oh, all the flavours that you're getting are all from the cask. Shut up. Of course it's from the cask, that's okay. We all love our spirit forward things. We all love to taste the distillate and the distillery character. We love all of that stuff, of course we do, especially if it's been given the right amount of time in a refill cask in a wee quiet corner and all those romantic things to reach that perfect moment of enjoyment. But sometimes when we're chasing flavour, if the flavour's from the cask, it's valid. Whiskey is not what flows from a still. The way that we enjoy whiskey today, the way that we've enjoyed whiskey for over a century, is whiskey that pours from an oak cask. And it's nice to celebrate the concept of that in all the flavour and variety that it can bring. This is natural colour, as is the Lagavulin, but I want you to look at these side by side. This one is maybe 5 or 6 years old. This one is twice that age, 12 years old. That colour is all down to the cask. We can appreciate the colour because we know it's natural. We've not been lied to with it being dosed with caramel colouring, spirit caramel, E150A, whatever way you want to call it. It's deceit. These are natural things. So when we hold that up and say, look at the colour of that, it's genuine appreciation. It's genuine appraisal. It's part of the ceremony of enjoying whiskey. I tore through this last year and loved it. It was unique. And it was also, and it is also, the least expensive of all the whiskies I'm going to share with you tonight, apart from this ridiculous deal, £50 for Lagavulin 12. I didn't buy the Talisker. I did not. The Talisker was a weird maturation as well in 2023. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't tequila. It wasn't rum. It was something odd about the tequila port or something. I can't remember. Anyway, I left that alone. I took a gamble on this Lagavulin and it has been delivered. It's a legitimate, real bottle. £50. What else can you say? But it's going to be interesting to see how it holds up against Glasgow's cult bottle. Let's keep them in hand just now. Let's go see what they're doing on peat smoke first. Plenty. Oh, okay. So peat smoke is obvious on this Lagavulin. Heaps and heaps and heaps of ashy, briny peat smoke. Briny? Yeah, briny. No, on this, probably what I need to do is go back and get some of that Loch Lomond in my nose. This is the peat is kind of, it's inside this thick, dark honey maple syrup. Thick. It smells even warm. It's weird. Slightly earthy, fruit sweet, dark syrupy. This is peated. I think most people that aren't into whiskey and don't suffer from peat blindness like I do, they would pick this up immediately and say it's smoky. But no, the Lagavulin is clearly smoky. This is the cask leading here, despite the peaty bold spirit. And the Lagavulin, of course, it's the smoky malt that leads. So which to sip first? Let's go with the Lagavulin first. 50 quid's worth tequila casks. Is it a wee bit spirity? Is that a tequila cask? I suspect not. It's the green element in the finish here, but a very general sense of this to me is that this is fairly typical Lagavulin 12 cask strength. No, there is an oddness there. Oh wow. Is that tonight or is that a tequila cask? I think it's a tequila cask. There's a greenness to this, a slightly oaky green, winey element even. But the arrival is absolutely typical Lagavulin 12. Remarkably elegant up front. Very assured. Very clean. defined. It's the development and the finish that there's this kind of yeah, spiritiness that comes into it. A green element, a green oak element. I mean, it's good for it's wonderful value for 50 quid. I don't know how I'd feel if I paid 150 quid, but let's try and keep it to the liquid for now. And then just, this is really comparing opposite ends of the spectrum, despite the fact that both of these are peated malt spirits. Oh my goodness, this is... I just know that when I pour this for people over winter, Glasgow have worked out the shortcut keys. This is a shortcut key. It's taken that peaty spirit, taken that moody, heavy, smoky malt liquid, and putting it into this extreme cask, this PX cask, like Bunnahabhain have been doing for years with the Moynier releases. Like so many other players out there have worked out that they can do. They can take a peated element and put it in this really rich cask, and it works a treat. Because the spirit, there's still enough of the spirit there, there's still enough of that peated malt character to blast through, and then this huge cask element makes it super, super compelling. What they've done here to turbocharge that shortcut, that key to the Loch to shortcut things, and they've put it out as a cask strength version, 60.7% ABV. Now, I put it to you that you will not taste that. You'll taste that these are high ABV spirits. But the Lagavulin, which is 58, 57. Oh, wow. I think that says 56.4. Let's try a wee sip again. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. I thought that was going to be obviously higher ABV, but that would be me being unfair to it. No, instead what we're going to say is that despite that Glasgow being quite a bit younger, half the age, and quite a bit more potent on ABV, 60.7% ABV versus 56.4, quite a difference. You taste it on the finish. So there's a kind of medicinal cough syrup thing on the finish that hangs around for a wee while. Really, really dense. So much to unpack. The difference that a cask makes to a spirit is on display here. What I suspect we've got in this Diageo is refill casks that have been in refill casks for a long, long time and put into some slightly more active, or let's say more influenced, tequila casks. I don't know what state the tequila casks were in before they held tequila for a little while, whether they're refill or whatever. We don't know, but it's ex-tequila. But the cask element in this is dialed right down, whereas the cask element in this is dialed right up. And they are both utterly, utterly pleasurable. When we talk about bang for your buck and which is the best, look, for a 12-year-old malt whisky from Islay, from Lagavulin Distillery at £50, there's no question. Lagavulin takes that honours, there's no doubt. But that's not what we have here. Not everyone has access to whoever that vendor was trying to get rid of their stock through Amazon this year, through the Cyber Monday, Black Friday, whatever it was, week of crazy, crazy deals. We have to judge that on the price that you would have to pay for that now, and you pay triple figures, well into triple figures for it, and that would be a disappointment at that price point. You would enjoy it, you would be glad to have it potentially, but you would know that it's unlikely you're going to go back and replace it. Whereas this, it's £65 for something that you're going to get excitement out of enjoying yourself and pouring for people all over winter. That's what bang for your buck is. Doodle Drum Arneson Glasgow Distillery really is creative at making their young whiskies so dense. The virgin oak based small batches are flavour bombs. Can't wait to see what slower cooked magic is to come. I hope that Glasgow are able to lay down enough for that longer term maturation. This is a huge challenge for all these new distilleries. I used to love Springbank 12 Cask Strength, but not had a bottle for many years due to people flipping them on auction sites. I refused to pay triple the price, but an amazing whiskey. Berkey, I suspect, I don't know where you are on the planet. With a name like Berkey73, I'm tempted to suggest you're west coast of Scotland, but it's coming to you, big guy. If you're looking for it, if you want it, it will make its way back to you. Here's to you finding a wee Springbank 12 Cask Strength in the future at retail. Lomond is saying, is there a green tinge on that lager or just the lighting? Oh. Well, there's also a green tinge to the label. But no, do you know what I would have to say? I get what you're talking about. It's gold liquid. It's pale gold whiskey. I think the green is coming from the lighting and the label. I think if you took the labelling off that and things, I don't think you would say the word. Green is common, highlights. You sometimes get a green tinge, green highlights on malt whiskey. It could be there, but no, I think the lighting is exaggerating it. It's pale gold, it's straw gold. Ian Bruce is saying, for some reason, 2-3 weeks ago I spotted Dillion Flora and Fauna for $65. Australian delivered. That's about £33. Not found it at those prices before or since. I hope you picked it up, Ian. That'd be a cracking wee 43% dram to have at that price. Make a dram decision saying I would actually buy that Lagavulin 12 at that price. But there's quite a statement right there, isn't it? Because it has to be that price before you consider buying it. They've just lost the plot. You know, I remember when it got to £90 and I decided that was it. I was out, and then the 2017 was just... Anyway. Ixovry, did you manage to get a Talisker special release at a similar price to that lager? I didn't. I could get it. There was a little bit of a hack. If you clicked on a link, it was £119. But if you switched your supplier down underneath, if you changed to a different supplier, you could get it for £50. And I never pulled the trigger. I didn't go for it. Maybe I should have. Ian Bruce is saying, good day everyone, Murray Mints were class. Bit of a nightmare if you crunch into them and they jam the teeth. I know, but you keep soaking away. Pedro in Brazil, good to see you, Pedro. I have to leave now, Barflies. Always great to spend some time with you all in a vPub. Good night, Barflies and Aquavite. Pedro, I hope I caught you before you disappeared. And Doodle Dram, oh sorry, I did pick that one up. Greg's Whiskey, Greg in Paris is saying, your voice seems a bit injured, Roy. Hope you're well. No, I've had a problem with my... since Glasgow Festival weekend, I think it's been a problem. I hope it's okay. I'm not in any pain or discomfort, but I understand that for quite a few weeks now I've sounded a wee bit odd and off. I can smell, I can taste, I can walk, live, breathe, jump, run, all the things I need to do from day to day. And I'm feeling fine, Greg. Thanks for your concern, buddy. Ixovry is saying, I managed to pick up 2 bottles of the Talisker from Amazon. Samples welcome if you'd like one. No need, but that's interesting because that reassures us where we work together as a community there, where we know that these things, I mean, it's Amazon, it shouldn't be a scam. We hope it's not a scam, but it's real and those bargains are there. I loved what Thompson Brothers did recently. I may have to reach out of my, I don't even know if I might be able to reach this. Thompson Brothers are not the type of producer that you would see selling through Amazon. Can I share this with you? This is not planned. This is not Cask Strength. This is a bottle of Thompson Brothers North Highland 8-year-old. You recognise this, it even got a nomination in the Oswas this year. What you'll notice on this one though, the ABV is down quite low, 42.9% ABV. Sipping strength, session strength perhaps arguably. What we know from the previous batches of this, that it tends to be vatting of Glen, wonderful liquid, Clynelish, wonderful liquid. We think that that's what it is anyway. Put together in a sipping strength bottle and put in the extra value butcher's apron stripes that has become a bit of tongue-in-cheek. But if you know, you know, this is decent whiskey. Sipping whiskey. Certainly better than the similar amount of money that you would pay on a lot of other cheaper malts and blends. Anyway, this I bought through Amazon, and I don't buy any whiskey through Amazon. That's not true. That's absolutely not true. I do buy whiskey from Amazon, but it tends to be the last port of call. I buy it because of the price, I buy it because of convenience, because of need, or because of Amazon exclusivity, or whatever it may be. But typically, I do try to support bricks and mortar places, the Good Spirits Company. It's a pleasure just to buy from them, let's be honest. But I have also online favourite places that I like to go to as well, who are very, very good at processing the order, getting it out there and keeping you up to date exactly where the package is, when it's going to arrive. And when it's packaged, it's not overly packaged and it's not under packaged, it's just packaged nicely, and it just makes the whole thing easy. Amazon tends to be lesser visited for whiskey. So I was surprised to see Thompson Brothers putting a bottle on there. Nobody's going to be able to read this super small text. I'll hold it there if anybody wants to dice with the focus to see whether or not that would be something that you could actually take a screenshot of and read. But let me read it to you. Thank you for choosing Thompson Brothers Whiskey. We're thrilled that you've purchased this bottle from a small independent family-owned gross, and then they stop mid-sentence and then they strike it out. It's the blue text there that is struck out. They score that out and then go on to say, a massive global corporation. We hope it delivers the unique and memorable experience you deserve. And then they go on to say, as you sip, please consider supporting your local independent whisky retailers. These small businesses are the lifeblood of the whisky community, offering carefully curated selections and personalised service you won't find anywhere else. Discover our full range at your local specialist. A comprehensive list of retail partners is available on our website. Cheers to your good taste. Sláinte the Thompson Brothers team. The levels of what they've achieved here is amazing. Okay, this was £27. This is much cheaper than you would normally pay for this bottle. Arguably too cheap. They're making buttons on this, if they're making anything at all, but they've managed to put a volume product through Amazon. At the same time, they've delivered a stealth message here. So they've almost kind of kept their integrity and their ethics intact by kind of doing this kind of stealth delivery of this message. They have also been able to hopefully somehow publicise through people like us that get a kick out of this labelling, but also through genuine people who might buy this and wonder who Thompson Brothers are and want to know a wee bit more. Everything that they've achieved with this strategy is quite amazing to me. They know that people buy from Amazon because guess what? They're driven by price. And if Amazon make it cheap, convenient and easy to get hold of whiskies at a good price, people will buy it. Yes, we would all love to keep our bricks and mortars in rude health, and we would like to support our most ethical online retailers too. But the truth is that when it comes to seeking out the best and most enjoyable things in whiskey and sating our curiosity for the next find, we are all restricted by budget. Convenience also plays a significant part in all of these decisions. If I hear people shaming somebody else because of the place that they buy their Scotch whisky from, it makes me upset, it makes me a wee bit sad. We know the right thing to do. We know and we feel good about doing the right thing. We understand. But we never shame someone else because they're tight of funds and they pick up the bargains wherever they may exist. Always remember that. Always remember. Sandro's saying, just back and looking forward to the vPub. Thanks, Ciao Roy. Sandra, wherever you've been, I hope it was good fun. And it's nice to always welcome you in here. Wonderful to have you. What a label. I wonder if Amazon will have them back on their site again anytime soon if Bezos finds out what they've done. I don't think they'll care. I don't think there's a single bod at Amazon that gives a crap. Hellswood is saying, unfortunately, we don't have a local whisky outlet, so interweb is it unless we're north of the border. And again, I understand that completely, Helen. Is exactly what my point. Glen, Clynleash and Chininic, says Helen. Might be a bit of Chininic in this most recent one. Loved that cheeky wee label, says Hellswood. And Andrew Pierce is saying, a man called Brody on a little website called Dramface gave the Talisker a 7 out of 10. When I saw it for 50 quid, I had to buy it. So a decent Dramface review for that one. Interesting. It might be something that I should have and didn't, but that's okay. It's not like I'm short of whiskey or Talisker for that matter. And Exovary is saying, I managed to pick up 2 bottles of Talisker from Amazon samples. Welcome if you like one. Sorry, that's me going back to the comment that you mentioned earlier. And Arne is saying, Aquavite is the kind of guy when he says, I'm a wee bit sad instead of I'm angry, it actually says deeper. Let's put that down to your interpretation of it. No intention there, but Aquavite, Ian Bruce says, I saw these for sale and got all excited seeing the butcher's apron, then realised it was a UK VPN and not in Australia. So you're running through your VPN, you've set London as your location, you see the bottles, then realise you can't get it because you're pretending to be in the UK and not actually in the UK. Ian, I hope whiskey finds you, my friend, I really do. Alan Smith is saying, think you're wrong there. There's a wee gap over your left shoulder. A wee gap over my left shoulder. There's a huge gap over my left shoulder here. So what am I wrong about? So what happened recently is that I negotiated with my wife that I could have a whiskey cabinet back in one of the main living spaces of the house. I don't know how I managed that. I need to make more space to get bottles off the floor in the vPub and things and keep things a little bit more organised because I can jam everything on the shelves, but the problem is that when I'm doing a vPub or just whatever, I need to be able to know where the thing is and be able to reach it and grab it and put my hand on it, and it's become more and more difficult. So a lot of the sealed bottles, the special occasion bottles, the things that have been gifts from the community, from various places, I wanted to put in a cabinet that would really show them off and make it look nice. And I sold it to my wife and I promised that it would look really, really nice and it would be lit nice and there'd be glass doors on it, it wouldn't get dusty, all of these things. And she let me. So a lot of the bottles over there, Ralphie bottles, No Nonsense Whiskey bottles, gift bottles from you, they've been taken out of there from everywhere within the vPub and they've been put on display. It looks really nice. It's like a fireplace in that room. It looks fabulous. It's fun that you spotted that. Peter Lee saying, good evening all Aquavite. Just home from work, been a late one. Nice to have you in, Peter. It's nice to welcome you, buddy. And Highland Hamish has bought me a dram. Good to see you, buddy. How are you keeping? He's saying, well done for persevering with the audio challenges, Roy. Never in doubt the barflies would stick with you, though. Yeah, I'll need to put a wee notification up to say that they do clear. I take it that it's okay. She sounds like a keeper, Roy. Aye, well, I'm just hoping that she sees me as a keeper, Alan. Right, we know how that works. Fantastic. Gordon Fraser is here. Good to see you, buddy. I hope you're well. And my pal Mikey Hay, superb. He's still here saying, we need photos of that new fireplace whiskey cabinet. I have the vanity in me, Mikey, to have already taken pictures of it. Let's see what I can do to share with you quickly now. Thank you for calling me out. Okay, this was it. This was it after I'd measured it up for all the sizes and things to make sure I could get as much in as possible. I'm sure I've taken pictures. I know I've taken pictures of it finished, I think. Well, almost finished, let's see. Here we go. There's that fireplace whiskey cabinet in the new room. Some reflection and things like that there, but aye, it's looking braw. It's looking good. I'm very, very pleased with it. And if the wife is accepting of it, then we're on a winner. So I want to summarise on this kind of thing. Cask Strength Whiskey is here for a very specific reason. There are, as I say, if I read these out to you, you'll recognise Cask Strength whiskies from all of these official producers in 2024. Aberlour, Benriach, Benromac, Bunnahavn, Deanston, Edredale, Glenallachie, Glendronach, Glenfarclas, Glengoyne, Glengyle, Glenlivet, Glenscotia, Highland Park, Kilholman, Lagavulin, Lefroy, Glenchranza, Arran, McAllen even, Springbank, Tamdhu, Tomatin, Annandale, Ardnamurchan, Glasgow, Rassay, Kingsbarns, Lindores, Lochleigh, Torravik, Wolfburn and Speyside distilleries. They are doing it for a very specific reason. I suspect they're doing it for a reason that they would not have done it 20 years ago. 20 years ago, there was one distillery on the island of Islay that you could buy decent ABV whiskey reliably from, and that was Bruichladdich. Lagavulin, Lefroy, even Ardbeg at the time. Okay, they eventually launched their 10-year-old at 46%, but their 17-year-old previously had been sold at 40. Lefroy was 40 domestically, 43 export. Lagavulin was at least 43 globally. Bowmore was 40%, Kalila was 43%, Bunnahavn was 40% before they changed in the 2010s. We have to think about where we are today, how much ground that we've covered, how much we've achieved. People who knew malt whisky and what it could deliver as a natural product fought for these things to be available. And I think for a lot of producers out there, a cask strength is not just a natural evolution. It is a way for them to sate the desire for much more potent, dense, flavourful product. But it's also a way for them to maybe doff a cap to the enthusiasts out there, the people that understand who would want to drink a whiskey at 58% ABV and enjoy it, and how to do that in a responsible way, where that makes sense. The reason that the Scotch Malt Whisky Society was birthed in the early 80s was in pursuit of cask strength natural whisky. They weren't the first, but they were among the first. Certainly the first to make it available to more and more and more people. The fact that we've gone from a Glenfarclas 105 in the late 60s to half of the producers with core ranges offering us a cask strength in 2024 is a measure of how much we have matured as whisky appreciators. That's what cask strength is there for. It's there for the people who want to sit and appreciate and take their time over the whisky and appreciate it at its full volume. It would have been interesting if we'd had a dud tonight, something that was a bit not worth the money or not worth your time. But of course that's not happened. It's very unlikely that I'm going to be picking up a bottle of something that I'm pretty confident is going to be poor, especially when it comes to these releases. These are fantastic whiskies. And isn't it interesting that the price points run from mid-60s to mid-70s pounds? They're all very, very tight together, except for that one outlier, which is a perfect example of the absolute mess that Diageo finds themselves in right now. This is the product that we want. We would love it if it was anywhere close to the price of all of these other whiskies that I've shared with you tonight, whether they've got an age statement on them like the Springbank Cask Strength 12-year-old, the Loch Lomond Cask Strength 12-year-old. This is a 12-year-old Lagavulin, and yet it is by far, by a factor of 2, the most expensive. And at the same suggestion, it is also by far the cheapest, because they've made an absolute mess of the positioning of this whisky. Lagavulin was once upon a time undersold. There's no doubt that that's the case. Lagavulin in 2024 is in the mess it's in because they've spent the last few years trying hard to oversell it. Fix it. It's a mess. And all of these other producers are coming along and showing everybody who cares what can actually be achieved through presenting reasonably priced, honest, beautiful Scotch whisky in an ethical and fair way. Screw your shareholders for this year and reassure them that you're supporting them for next year, 5 years and 10 years down the line, because you've made an arse of your business, Diageo, in recent years. From my enthusiast's perspective. Daniel is saying, I've seen SMWS, I've been an SMWS member for 10 years now, and I still am. Daniel, that's you in Canada as well. I've seen your whisky collection in years past. I hope it's still serving you well. Tom is saying, gentle pressure relentlessly applied. A good strategy, Aquaviti. Whiskey Throttle is saying, and I still love the Cask Strength, but a lot of indie bottlers get better barrels in the last few years. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the years ahead, Daniel, as well. There's a lot of whiskey out there right now. It's kind of stretching. It's really desperate to get out there. It's going to be interesting for us as enthusiasts to see what happens next. And Make a Dram Decision is saying, years ago I always bought a bottle of Lagavulin 12. Me too. Cask Strength, but no more Aquaviti. Not at £155, you can forget it. And it's a shame that we've got to wait for stupid, loss-making scenarios where we wait for stock to be shifted through ridiculous Black Friday and Cyber Monday type deals. It's not how it should be. I'm already 2 hours 20 minutes into this Cask Strength session. I'm just about in a fit state to bring the quiz at the end to you. I hope it's been okay for you guys too. The quiz at the end tonight will follow the same theme as quiz at the ends always do. There's no theme. There will be 1 or 2 Cask Strength questions in there, but it's all multiple choice anyway. It'll start off quite easy and get harder as it goes on. Lean on the crowd if you have to. Only score and share your score if you want to. And remember, it's there to be fun. It's only there for us to finish off the vPub, to share a wee bit of intrigue, pique your curiosity. Maybe you'll learn something from it, maybe you'll not. But either way, I hope that you do have a wee bit of fun from the quiz at the end. My pal Danny is in. Danny Keenan is saying, bought me a dram to say thank you for all that you do, Roy. Danny, it really doesn't feel like I do that much. But thank you, buddy. It's nice to have loads and loads of good folk around the vPub and everything that it achieves. And you're one of those, Danny Keenan. It's nice to have you in, buddy, and thank you generously for your dram. All right. Quiz at the end. Good luck, everyone. Multiple choice. Starts easy. Let's go. Which of these distilleries has an official Cask Strength labelled release? 3 options. Tell me which one has a Cask Strength release. A. Isle of Raasay, B. Torrevik, or C. Loch. It's going to be difficult for me to watch this session back tonight if we've got lots and lots of video and audio problems like we did at the start. I hope it's okay for you, much better for you now. C.A. Newman, I wonder if that's a new name. Klaus Falsgraf, going for All Mike Molasses. Make a Dram Decision, Pete Head, Donnerpass Whiskey, Hellswood, Justin Wan, probably ABC spotted. Isle of Raasay was on a very recent vPub with their Cask Strength. Torrevik has been on their Alt Glen, I think it was, Cask Strength version. They brought out a Cask Strength version of that, and obviously Loch also have a Cask Strength version. So nobody's going home with a donut tonight. Everybody's getting at least everyone's getting at least 1 out of 10 as we move into question 2. Which of these distilleries were first to release an official core range Cask Strength? I know that you're hoping for Glenfarclas to appear here. It's going to be a wee bit harder than that. A. Glengoyne, B. Ardnamurchan, or C. Wolfburn. All 3 of these distilleries have official Cask Strength releases. All batch released, of course, as they tend to be. I'm just going to ask you which of those was the first. What would I pick as my dram of the night tonight? If I was to take one of these home, what would it be? If I wanted it to be the treasure, and because I know how hard it is to come by, I suspect it would be the Springbank 12 Cask Strength. But if I wanted something just to take to the sofa, it might be that Loch Lomond, you know. So unique. So different. Okay. That is a nice selection, says Falsgraf. A would be the obvious guess, says Lachlan Mackenzie. Yeah, and I'm not trying to cheat anyone here. Be interesting if you were to guess between B and C. You might be surprised to know that Ardnamurchan was first out the traps, despite the fact Wolfburn was founded earlier than them. Their 7-year-old release came out as a Father's Day special in 2022. Ardnamurchan's Cask Strength came out in early 2022. But before then, and had been on the go for a decade now, we've had Cask Strength batch releases from Glen. I don't have one on the shelf right now. It's been a long time since I've had one on the shelf. Question 3. Which of the following Diageo distilleries has a release available in the 2024 special releases? I know a lot of you might not have paid too much attention to this, so this might be a wee bit tricky. Do your best. Fall on each other if you have to. But which of the following had a release in this year's special releases from Diageo? A. Mortlach. B. Aberlour. Surely that's a mistake. Or C. Colilla. We'll leave that as it is. I think I've made a mistake that makes it easier for you. Andy, Justin, Lassie Hort Otsman, good to see you here. Lassie saying C along with Andy and Justin. Nicholas is saying C. Big Ed thinks it's A. Good to see you, Big Ed. Peter Box thinks C. Steve Atkiss. It's great to see all the names at the quiz at the end, the people that I've missed throughout. James Morgan is here as well. Fantastic, James. Good to see you in. Whiskey Slayer is a barfly in, answering A and C. Gordon Fraser thinks it's C. Aris Moose is in as well. Good to see you, Aris. Alan Smith saying A. And Gerhard Grasbock, I think I've made a probably terrible effort at pronouncing your name, Gerhard, but you're saying C. I can suggest that C.A. Newman is spot on, saying A and C. Aberlour is a Pernod Ricard distillery. I did think that I had modified that and changed it to a less obscure thing. I think I changed that Aberlour to say Glenkinchie, but I obviously haven't updated it in the vPub software. I apologise. Regardless, means that you're all in good shape and you're all doing well on 3 out of 3 for the most part. Question 4, things will start to get trickier now. What can be said about the most easterly located malt distillery on the Scottish mainland? What fact can be said about the most easterly distillery on the Scottish mainland? A, that it's got no core official range. B, it has changed its name recently. Or C, it has a strong connection with golf. Luring you all into a wee bit of a false sense of security, as I tend to do, the way that the vPub quiz at the end has evolved over the years. The most easterly distillery in the Scottish mainland either has no core official range, it changed its name fairly recently, or it has a strong connection with golf. Splitting the crowd a wee bit. We've got Gordon Fraser with a B, Whiskey Slayer with a C, and Steve Atkiss with an A. Falsgraf is saying no idea. Yeah, it's a geography thing, isn't it? Going with the flow, Lachlan Mackenzie is saying it's not Kingsbarns. And Justin Wan is saying, don't worry, the audio has been fine for most of tonight's session. Thank you, Justin. Good to have you in, buddy. Okay, I can tell you that 2 out of the 3 are correct here. It is Brewdog, which once upon a time was known as Lone Wolf, so it changed its name recently, and of course, it as of yet has no core range. I was suggestive of Kingsbarns there, but of course, that would have meant that we know that Kingsbarns has a core range and things, and I can tell you that Brewdog is the most easterly. Question 5 is an image question, so you do need to know what we're looking at. A wee bit of asshattery here. Not only do you need to know the distillery that we're looking at, but you need to know what blend of Scotch this distillery is most associated with. The distillery that we're looking at here, beautiful, beautiful walls, beautiful stonework there, look at that, is associated with A, Johnny Walker, B, Chivas Regal, or C, White Horse blends. Which blend, which famous blend is that distillery connected with? Maybe not today, but historically speaking, if that helps you in some way. That Glasgow peated is just a stunning drink. Stunning drink. So much flavour. Lean on each other if you have to. Lachlan McKenzie is admitting that he's gambling on A. Good luck, buddy. Going with the crowd. But the crowd is divided. Justin Wan is saying, so he's going to go B and say Chivas Regal. The A's are coming, says Falsgraf. Going under tonight, I guess. That is a tough one, but A, says James Morgan. No idea. Going with the chat. A, says Mike Molasses. So you've got your last chance to get your answers in before I reveal to you that we are looking at Annandale Distillery in the Lowlands, which of course from the late 19th century until maybe 20 years into the 20th century, it was owned by and a critical component to Johnny Walker. They've got a nice little exhibit down there if you ever visit. It's a fantastic distillery to visit. Good cafe and things, and they celebrate their heritage well. The way they've restored the distillery, the buildings, the courtyard, the way they've exposed what they believe to be an old still, it's just a fascinating, fantastic place to visit. It's just a shame that we're not talking about their whiskey on tonight's vPub. Question 6. On which discontinued bottle label would you find the words Very Old Reserve, Old Scotch Whisky, and Age with Honour? Not only would you find that on the packaging, you would find all of those statements on the exact same front label. Very Old Reserve, Old Scotch Whisky, and Age with Honour. Is that on A, a 1980s Lagavulin 12, B, Bailey Nickel Jarvie Blended Scotch, or C, an original Glenfarclas 105? This is when things start to get challenging and tricky, and you start to learn little wee bits and pieces, things to look out for. But such a knowledgeable crowd. Whatever happens, I can sleep now, Aquavite. David is celebrating 5 out of 5. He's got his pass mark for the night. That's a shame, Annandale, so much better in the last year. It is a shame. And again, you know, they don't seem to be paying any attention to what happened at Waterford. There is no discernible core range. There's nothing that's there as an anchor for us to. It's all single cask strength. I don't know why, because they don't have a bottling partner or something. I just don't understand the strategy. I don't know who Annandale is aimed at. I've talked about it multiple times in the past. But we're on to this question now, and almost all of you, Ben Demon Hunter is admitting being a sheep, with a wee sheep emoji in there. Ben, there's no shame in being a sheep tonight. I'm talking about, of course, Bailey Nickel Jarvie, and it's actually just about within reach. Let's try. I'm going to knock things over. Wouldn't it be the night? I replaced this at auction and I picked it up cheap. It was just amazing how cheap I got this at auction. But I've had this around for a wee while. It's a wee kind of guilty pleasure. And you know, what's amazing to me is that I remember thinking how fantastic a blend this was. Just let me share this with you. I remember just knowing how good a blend this was back in the day. It was eventually owned by Glenmorangie before they killed it off. It was seen as not being amongst their strategy, and it's been a bit of a cult bottle ever since. Blended Scotch whisky at 40% ABV, just wonderful packaging, kind of faux old school type packaging on it. Great stuff. Just good fun. Very, very tongue in cheek. But what I've noticed is that today, Bailey Nickel Jarvie, we are spoiled for blends that are every bit as good quality as that ever was. And I would argue, based on my enjoyment of this bottle, today we've got stuff that's even better. Anyway, Bailey Nickel Jarvie's the answer I was after, so if you said B, good luck. Move on to question 7, and I'll ask you which full year figures for Scotch exports in 2023, what did they do? What happened to the full year's figures that came out in 2023, obviously reflecting on the previous year? A, it showed healthy growth on 2022. B, it remained stable against 2022. Or C, it shrunk dramatically compared to 2022. What happened? A, it grew. B, it stayed the same. Or C, it shrunk. So this is the full year figures for Scotch exports. We drink a lot of it domestically in Scotland and the UK widely. But there's a lot of industry focus on how much it can actually sell to the rest of the world, understandably. And that's what we're focusing on here. Mike is saying 6 out of 10. Graham Young on 6 out of 10 as well. Good stuff. Mikey on a 5 out of 6 and Graham Fraser on 6. Justin Wan also on a 5. Vasile Glagola is in. Good to see Vasile on a 6. Ben Whiskey with Molly, Lachlan McKenzie, Danny Hibbington and Andy Pearce all enjoying a 6 out of 6 as a dram comes in from Alistair McPhail. And Alistair is saying, propping my eyelids open with matchsticks. Hoping to make it to the end. Fantastic topic. We're all buying more Cask Strength bottlings. These are bangers. Thanks again for all you do, Roy. Alistair, my friend, if you've been sitting Cask Strength along with me and you feel as tired as I do, that's okay for you to nod off, my friend. You've earned it. Thank you very much for your generous dram for me. Thank you for being such a fantastic sport and a great guy to have in our community as well, Alistair. It's great to have you, buddy. Thank you. Of course, unfortunately, as we all know, what actually happened for exports in 2023 against 2022 is that it shrunk dramatically. The true numbers are pretty scary. In value, it shrunk 10%, which is bad enough, close to 10% at least. But in terms of pure volume, it shrunk 20%, which tells a tale in itself. They're overcharging. It's not difficult. You shrink 20% on volume, but only shrink 10% on value. You can see what's happened there. There's a reaction to this. I know what COVID did, I know, but it's just been getting too greedy for years, and there's been a reaction to it. COVID distorted things. COVID gave false confidence. Question 8, Altavania in Speyside opened in 1975. How long would it be before another new malt distillery opened in Scotland afterwards? So between 1875 and when? How long would it be after Altavania before we saw another new distillery open in Scotland? A, 15 years, B, 20 years, C, 25 years. guys are funny. Whiskey with Molly saying, looks like a group 10 tonight. Is it shaping up for big figures? You know what it's like though, Ben. It gets to the end and that's when the energy, you need to be super fit in your knowledge to get to the end. Altovania was in 1975. How many years would it take before another new distillery in Scotland saw the light of day? Peter Box, A. Whiskey Slayer, B. Vasile, B. Bruce, B. Nicholas, B. Lachlan, B. Sugar Kitty, Caninvey. Ben Demon Hunter, A. Ha. The crowd seems to have gone with B. It was actually, as Sugar Kitty's pointed out, it was Caninvey who just got ahead of Speyside, which were both founded in 1990. Only 15 years of a gap. So a lot happened in those 15 years. We did see a huge slump, whiskey falling out of fashion, the creation of the Whiskey Loch, closure of, a couple of dozen distilleries in the 1980s. We saw a lot of attrition, but it happened very, very quickly. Consider what's happened over the most recent 15 years. It's the exact inverse opposite. We're in interesting times right now. Question 9, second from last. Which of these statements are true about Tullibardine Distillery? Told you it would start to get harder. We're talking about Tullibardine. A, it is older than Tormore. B, it has a larger capacity than Talisker. Or C, like Tomatin, it lies just off the A92. So I've made 3 statements there. 2 of them are not true. 1 of them is true. Of course, I'm asking you to discover the one that's true. A, it's older than Tormore. B, it has larger capacity than Talisker. Or C, like Tomatin, it lies just off the A92. Steve Atkins is saying he's with Ben. Mike Molasses, who's had a 10 out of 10 in the past, struggling tonight on a 7 so far. That's okay. It's a great score. Lots and lots and lots of people going with A here. Danny Hebington is saying the A92 is a long-ass road, lol. Yeah, you know better, Danny. No idea. Going with B, says Andy Pierce. Mike Molasses, I have no idea. Ben Demon Hunter saying lots of guessing and following today. That's okay, Ben. That's why you're here, to support each other. Graham Young is saying A. I can tell you that it does, like Tomatin, lie just off the A9, not the A92, the A9. It does not have a larger capacity than Talisker. Tullibardine is 3 million litres. Theoretically, Talisker is currently 3.5 million, but it is older than Tormore, founded in 1949. It's about 9 years ahead, 9 years younger than Tormore. The verb is plural aquavitae. How many right answers? Sorry. You're right. Often I do give you more than one, and you're right. It is plural there. Which of these statements is true about Tullibardine? I'm sorry, Alistair. And I'm sorry if the pluralisation caused confusion. Alistair, you're not that tired. There's no way you need those matchsticks. You're sharp as a tack, my friend. Sharp as a tack. Okay, how are we doing? Before we roll into the ass hat at the end, how are we all getting on? Justin on a 7, Hellswood on a 9, Peter Box on a 9, Andy, Ben and Jean Kelly, along with Kyle Taylor on an 8, Lassie also on an 8, along with Aris. PF Bog is celebrating a pass mark on a 5 out of 10 already. Good stuff. I'm looking for the 9s. Jerry Miller is on a 9, Chris Pollack is on a 9. There are a lot of 9s in. Graham Young is on a 9, Dave the Brave, Graham Fraser, Sugar Kitty. Steve Atkiss. Okay, it's all down to the tricky asshat at the end. You've got half a chance tonight because I did share some of the facts. Question 10 is the asshat. Approximately how many official core ranges has a regular edition released as a cask strength? Whatever that number is, it's about the same as A, the years of age for Highland Park's oldest core official release. B, the number of open operational distilleries in Speyside. Or C, the number of operational distilleries beginning with the letter G. That's your asshattery for tonight. So not only do you need to know the number of cask strength releases, part of the core range, you need to know that number. Hopefully you were listening, you were here earlier tonight. 8.99 out of 10 for Mikey A. I like it, Mikey. But you need to be able to know the answer to these other things. How many years of age maturity is on the oldest core range from Highland Park? How many operational distilleries are there in Speyside? Or how many operational distilleries beginning with the letter G? And I should mention, operational distilleries beginning with the letter G, I'm talking about Scotch malt distilleries, just to be a wee bit clearer. Can't think of any, actually, outside of Scotland beginning with G right now offhand. I'm sure there are plenty. Mike Molasses is saying, I'm a sheep, going with C. Falscraft is saying, I've never answered an asshat out of knowledge. Aquaviti, I always go estimate and gut feeling. Is that not what it's about? It's about a bit of fun, it's about a bit of camaraderie, it's a bit about a knowledge, and it's also a lot to do with luck, right? And not taking any of it too seriously, but at the same time, taking it very seriously. All right, how have you answered tonight, Klaus? What have you suggested? C, you've gone with C for the asshat tonight, which is suggesting that it matches the number of cask strength official releases from official producers, matches the number of operational distilleries beginning with the letter G. I can tell you that Highland Park's oldest core release is a 40-year-old. 40 years old core release, wow. Number of operational distilleries in Speyside, well, it depends. Some are closed and some are seasonally closed. I mean, you know, sometimes Glen, sometimes Manickmore, and they switch backwards and forwards that. But it's in the order of 50. Operational distilleries beginning with the letter G in Scotland, we're in the order of 30. And I told you a couple of times tonight, I even listed them off, that we are in the order of, depending on how you define it, close to approximately 30 distilleries offering an official cask strength release in 2024. C is the correct answer, Klaus. So your gut feeling went in the right direction that time. How many of us are enjoying a 10 out of 10 now? Tom, my pal in Arizona, Whiskey and Wine Trails, has got a 9 along with Kyle Taylor. Fantastic. Let's go. Dave the Brave is celebrating his 10 out of 10. Take that t-shirt off. Do the wee runs round the coffee table, my friend. Lassie's on a 9. Big Ed's on a 9. And Helen is celebrating a 10 out of 10. Well done, Helen. Lachlan McKenzie on a 9. Nicholas on a 9. Vasil 9. Ian Bruce and Graham Young. Oh no, Ian Bruce gets an 8, but Graham Young manages to nail a 10 out of 10. Well done you, Graham. 10 out of 10 for Jerry Miller. A 10 out of 10 for Sugar Kitty. 10 out of 10 for Peter Box. 10 out of 10 from Isla. From Graham Fraser, of course. The North Berwick Whisky Club. Dave, Neil, Ewan and Graham are all over on Isla right now. I suspect that Graham Fraser will be lying back in his bed after a busy day of whisky fun, participating in the quiz at the end. Brilliant to have you here, buddy. I hope you have a great time. Tapsaf Whiskey with Molly Ben is celebrating as well. Sugar Kitty celebrating. Danny Hebbington celebrating. Ding ding, yeah, dancer, he's saying. And David Larenko is saying 9 out of 10 on that question about exports. I wanted to swim against the trend. Never go against the crowd, Aquaviti. Love. Hellswood is saying fab vPub this evening, Roy. Off to my bed to recover with more peppermint tea, hopefully, Helen. And it's fantastic to have had you in here despite you not feeling great. Alistair McPhail is saying the matchsticks have fallen out, running round the room, celebrating his 10 out of 10. Fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful stuff. It's always really amazing how many of you stay in to the end. I like the idea of finishing the vPub on a quiz at the end. It just brings it to a natural end. The people that are not into quizzes can shuffle off, and the people that like to have a bit of fun can hang around for a wee while. Right at the end, generosity from Ben, Whiskey with Molly, gifted 5 Aquavitae memberships to 5 lucky random viewers or Aquavitae potential barflies. Thank you, Ben. Thank you for your generosity, buddy. Cheers to you. And Petehead, who I've not mentioned much tonight, is saying, and with that, I'm calling it a day. Time to hit the sack. Thanks always for organising Aquavitae. Great Cask Strength fun. And to all of you, see you next time. Slanchava. Petehead is over in the Netherlands, an hour ahead of us. Rest easy, Frank, big guy. Hey, love having you in, always, buddy. Chris Pollack is saying, great vPub. Thank you, Chris. I'm surprised. It was a wee bit wobbling at the start with the technical issues, but we managed to pull through. I hope. Gene Kelly saying, fantastic time as usual. Thanks for the great time. Thanks to you too, Gene Kelly, my friend. Thank you. Justin is saying, this was great. Finally back hanging out live. Hopefully I'll be back more often than not. Lots of love from Hong Kong. Lots of love right back to you. And rest easy. Go get some sleep now, Justin. What time is it in Hong Kong right now? 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning or something? Graham Fraser is saying, yup, in bed after a stay at Brookladdy and Bamore. After a day at Brookladdy and Bamore. Good for you, Graham. You're the soldier that's still awake at the end while the rest of them are fighting their breathing issues. It probably sounds like, if you're all sharing the house together, it probably sounds like a lumberjack contest, right? Molasses. Mike is saying, good night, Roy, and you lovely chat folk. Danny Hebington's bought me a dram right at the end. The quizzes are all part of the learning. Cheers, mate. Cheers to you, Danny, as well. It's brilliant to have you here, buddy, and thank you for your generosity. I'll raise this glass of, what is this? This is really quite a potent thing. I recommend it to everyone. If you're going to have one on your shelf, I would recommend that this is potentially the one, with it being the Cask Strength. There's more chance of it getting out there to more people. But this is Glasgow's 1770. So much flavour. Great price. But if there's one takeaway from everything tonight, apart from that anomaly that is that Diageo release, consider the value of all of these. £50 for a little brown dog I opened with tonight. £70 for the Loch Lomond. Ardnamurchan, £65, £68, £70, £72 something. Kingsbarns, £75, something like that. Springbank, £70, £75. They're all very, very close in price. Victoriana, depends on where you go, £70 to £75. You can get it in the 60s. Somebody even mentioned tonight that they were getting it for 61. So it's weird that it's kind of bookmarked by a bargain basement Lagavulin that's also the most expensive by far. It's not a good look for Diageo. They need to correct it. They need some canny, savvy practices in place. They are responsible for some of the best whiskies that we have ever had released. They're responsible for some of the best distilleries, literally, as I often say, the crown jewels of Scotch malt distilleries. They just need a wee bit of savvy guidance. Time to sack the manager. Time to put in place a replacement coach. Time to get things back on track. I'm looking forward to hanging out with you next week. I suggest, depending on the way the Thursdays are working out in December, means that Boxing Day is actually a Thursday night, and I suspect that that'll be not a vPub night. That means that there'll only be another 2 vPubs before the end of the year, which means that our party night, getting together and having a kind of gamification session or something, is going to have to be next week or the week after. And also, my week of the best of 2024 has got to fit in there too. So currently the way it's working out is that next week is the best of 2024, and the week after, the 19th, is the wee Christmas party, and that'll be wrapping things up for the vPub for 2024. It's a wee bit of a shame. It's going to mean that it's a longer time than usual before I'm back in January. I hope that's okay with everyone. So we'll make the most of it our last couple of weeks, just like we've made the most of tonight, despite the technical issues, and 7 potent cask strength drams. I've loved hanging out with you tonight, like I always do. I'll raise this wee glass to say good health, Slanchava to you all, and remind you all that you're very dearly loved. I look forward to hanging out with you again next week. Cheers.